confirmation that we have quorum. So we're going to begin the recording. Thank you very much, Angel and Khalid. Welcome to our November 29th, 2022 full board meeting of Manhattan Community Board 11. My name is Xavier Santiago, and I'm the chair of Community Board 11. This meeting is officially called to order at 6:35 p.m. Tonight, we're joined by District Manager Angel Mescain, Assistant District Manager Khalid Nixon. Unfortunately, Community Liaison Marlene Pierre is off tonight. For those who have not watched the World Cup, please turn off your sound for just a moment for spoiler alerts. So going to give you a few moments so you can just close your ears. But we're okay, good. We're going to the round of 16. So we beat Iran. So a little hand clap. They played great. Pulisic took an injury to the abdomen, but he scored the winning goal. So I just want to say big shout out. It's every 4 years, as I tell people, that you kind of lose me for this duration, but I'm still here. So anyway, all right, we can turn your speakers back on. Anyway, in order to conduct an efficient meeting tonight, let's observe a few ground rules. 1, no one may speak until granted the floor. 2, CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty to the staff. Members, please, you should not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. 3, the chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you're having or to state in writing information like an email address or phone number that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. 4, when a member is given the when a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you may speak at that time. 5, please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. 6, members of the public can register to speak in the public session by completing the pre-registration form and providing your name, affiliation, and what topic you wish to speak about. A link to the registration form has been shared in the chat. Registration for the public session needs to be completed by 7:15 p.m. We will now move on with the agenda. We will now take attendance by roll call. Michelle?
Hi, everyone. I am going to be switching back and forth on my phone, so please bear with me. Jose Altamirano.
Present.
Angel, I'm not sure if Michelle's having some technical difficulties.
It didn't, oh, okay. I thought it was going to work, but it didn't.
I can hear you. I can hear you, Michelle. Continue.
You
Jose
guys hear me? Present.
Leroy Adino.
Present.
Stephanie Arroyo. Eric Akinsuela. April Autry.
Present.
Adim Briha. Jahid Chaudhry. Diane Collier. I heard an echo there. Diane? Okay. Devin Cronshaw.
Present.
Kenneth Crouch.
Present.
Brianna DaCosta. Oh, excuse me, Diane Collier is excused. Carlos Diaz. Rosa Diaz.
Present.
Angela Donadell.
Here.
Jessica Elliott.
Present.
Judith Febrero.
Present.
Raja Flores. Osendi Garcia. Brandon Gillespie.
Present.
Oh, okay. David Giordano.
Present.
John Green. Wanda Hopkins.
Present.
James Horton. Alonzo Johnson. Jewel Jones.
Present.
Marissa Mack. Giselle Malave.
Present.
Malik McCullough.
Present.
Jennifer Mayer.
Present.
Jessica Morris. Nilsa Rama.
Present.
Beverly Pabon.
Present.
Arturo Perez is excused. Claudia Perez.
Here.
Roberta Perez. Chasvasia Robinson Teague. Natasha Rodriguez is excused. Eugene Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Dawn Sanders.
Here.
Xavier Santiago.
Here.
Isaac Scott.
Here.
Russell Schuler. Vincent Torres. Anne Marie Vasquez.
Here, present.
Jason Villanueva. Hilda Vivez Vasquez. Michelle Wilshire Clement, I am here. Jordan Wright and Jason Wu.
Here.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
You have quorum, Xavier.
Okay, wonderful. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Board members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Okay. Seeing that there are no hands raised, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. We will now move on to our pre-registered speakers. I'd like to remind you that there are a few ground rules for those wishing to speak. One, you must sign up to give testimony, providing your name and affiliation. 2, you will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Please state your phone and email up front. 2 minutes to speak and reserve a minute for questions. 3, you should address your testimony to the board, not the public. 4, you should speak clearly and into the microphone. 5, you should be prepared to respond to board members who may ask questions in order to clarify facts and opinions presented in your comments. Board members, a quick reminder, you should only ask clarifying questions. Commentary will not be entertained. Angel, has anyone signed up to speak in the public session?
Yes, so far we have 3 registered speakers. The first is Jesse Kravitz with NGBV, followed by Ezekiel Lee, speaking on behalf of the International Youth Fellowship, and then William Smith, local district leader.
Okay. Jesse Kravitz, you have the floor. Okay. Is he? I do not see him logged in. Do you have him there, Angel? Going to move along. We'll just go to Ezekiel Lee. Ezekiel?
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna speak on behalf of Ezekiel Lee. Is that okay? He was not able to attend tonight, but I'm the mind education specialist of the International Youth Fellowship.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to Community Board 11. You have 3 minutes. If you just state your name, your phone number, and email up front, and we'll start the time.
Okay, I'm Daniela Campbell. Yeah, you can see my name spelling has a H there, and also my email address, right? It's Daniela.dillon@gmail.com. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
So I'm Daniela from the International Youth Fellowship. International Youth Fellowship has been founded from 1995. We specialize in changing lives of youth, and we're in over 90 different countries across the world. From about 2000, we've been able to delve into mind education, because as our founders worked with a lot of youths across the world, we found that there's a lot of problem first starting from the heart and mind, and that is what causes the outcome of certain actions, right? And based on that, I guess general study and review and observation, then we're able this year to start a book. We wrote a book and a textbook for schools across America in explaining what is mind education, why is mind education important, and also going over certain topics to help each person understand the mind that each person lives with, I guess. So firstly, mind education, I guess you, from our perspective is, I normally use one word to explain it. Mind education is like a blueprint. Blueprint for any building shows you every aspect of that building, the basement, the kitchen, the bathroom, so on and so forth. And it's the basis of which the building is made. Of course, working on a building itself or reconstructing different angles of different parts of a building may be very hard, as you have to, break it down and rebuild and so on. But starting first from the blueprint by just erasing the lines and going over, then it makes it very easy to modify that building. So with the same regards to the mind, first trying to solve the actions that youths or different persons in different correctional facilities, first by starting by modifying their actions may be very hard. But if you understand the mindset, if you understand, the background.
Excuse me, that's time.
Okay, no problem.
All right, thank you. We're working to get the timer back up. So thank you, Daniela, for your understanding. Are there any board member questions? Please raise your hand through Zoom. I see Angela. Yep. And then Michelle Wiltshire Clement. Angela?
So first off, I have no idea what this presentation was supposed to be about. The mind, I didn't hear. Something missing.
Mind, I'm not loud enough. Mind education.
So could you just tell me what that means? So you guys want to look at how the brain is structured to determine how to change the attitudes of children or youth? Like, what is the purpose? The International Youth Fellowship, what are you doing? I have no idea.
Okay, no problem. So basically, as I was trying to bring across, mind education is the study of the world of heart. World of heart meaning the set of emotions, actions, understanding, the blueprint of that person's mind. Working from there, through that route, then we're able to change the actions, the thoughts, the hurts of the youths across the world. Not only youths, but also mind education is a training offered to leaders across the world. Recently too, we've been signed a contract with Israel for educating their different ministers of education and so on. And so from there, mind education focus is to change the world of the minds of the hearts of the youth through understanding the world of their heart first.
Okay.
Thank you. So what I'm going to ask is, can you please put the information on the website where we can get more information in the chat so that we could actually look it up and see what it is that you're discussing?
Okay, no problem. I'll drop that link right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think it'll be fruitful to have that information, and then you can engage with our Youth and Education Committee Chair, David Giordano, maybe come present there. Beverly, you had a quick question?
Yes, actually, Ms. Clemens already asked a question. I just want to try to put the information into the chat. Thank you. And her name and telephone number. Oh,
Yes,
if she gave it. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Eugene, you get the final question?
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to know, does she have a request of the community board?
Sorry, what was your question? If I have a request?
Do you want the community board to take some action? What is it that you're asking for the community board?
The purpose of Ezekiel Lee, he approached the community board because he wanted to join in hands in some way, to see how it is that throughout Harlem or throughout Manhattan, we can go further in, well, we can work together to see how we can impact our community more. Yeah, basically that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eugene. I think it'll be helpful for you to have a conversation with our Youth and Education Chair.
Yeah, I was going to suggest the same thing.
Yeah. Thank you very much for being here. I know Zoom can be intimidating when presenting, so thanks for bearing with us. And next we have William Smith, our local district leader. You have 3 minutes. We're trying to see if we can get that put up on the screen, so but we'll be holding the time. Khalid will be monitoring it. Will, you there?
Thank you, Chair Santiago, and good evening. And thank you so much, everyone, for all of your time and dedication to the community. I just wanted to give you a brief overview. Myself and my co-district leader, we issued a comment letter and submitted it to NYCHA in regards to the Preservation Trust draft voting procedures. And we wanted to highlight some key facts. So we highlighted 3 concerns about the draft of proposals and provided several recommendations for NYCHA to consider to include, which would include including a more substantive resident engagement, an increase in the proposed 10% voter threshold, and a transparent selective process for a third-party vote administrator, the person who will be coordinating the vote in transitioning our developments. Our residents need a comprehensive plan to effectively manage these processes. There must be an institutional shift in the strategic focus of our community. And obviously, as the district leader and as a lot of us have talked privately about a commitment to enriching the experience for our community, we want to make sure we better empower them with the tools, the information and trainings they will need as our public housing family transitions from either Section 9 to project-based Section 8, or decides and votes to remain in their current program, which would be Section 9. So we want the community to know that we are observing this issue. We are committed to actively engaging with all of you, the entire community board, as well as all other change agents around this issue, to ensure that, for one, our public housing residents are well represented, that their interests are well represented, and that we ensure that their voices are heard through this process. Civic education is a key component of that process. So we want to continue the dialogue with all of you around ensuring that we enrich our understanding of government and helping our NYCHA residents learn how to better navigate that bureaucracy of government. So we look forward to working with all of you as we prepare ahead of these decisions ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the remarks. Are there any questions from our board members? Please raise your hand. Angela, and then Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. This was an excellent presentation. I like the information you put. So I have a question. You talked about NYCHA residents. So in the voting process, it is only NYCHA residents that can vote for this, or is this something that we all get to vote for? And we have to have a better understanding of what is going on in the NYCHA development.
Well, Ms. Donadell, thank you so much for the request for that clarification. So it would be residents of record in that particular property.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to distribute our official letter and a copy of the statement to Angel and Xavier at the conclusion of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beverly.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Angela did ask the question, what a part of my question. My other question was, is there still a timeline on all of this work that needs to be done? And are the residents and the community board in general are aware of any timelines or deadlines that's up and coming?
Well, thank you for that. So I will be honest with you. I'm not aware. I believe this was just in the draft comment period. So I don't think the final procedures have been released. I will request some clarification from Nitro on that and get that back to you. I'll make sure to write your information down. But it's something that we need to make sure we get updated. But to answer your question, I think that it's very important, regardless, that we work actively and move with a sense of urgency to better empower them, because aside from them having a voice in voting in their developments, we also want to make sure we increase voter turnout overall, regardless of party affiliation. We need stronger engagement. So this is an opportunity for us to obviously energize that engagement and also build on it. So I look forward to working with all of you as we work to build that energy around that effort.
Great. Thank you. Great question, Bev. Thank you, District Leader William Smith. Appreciate you being in the space, and we'll see you out there in the neighborhood. Going back to Jesse Kravitz. Last call for Jesse Kravitz. Okay, I don't see him here. So we are now going to move on to the next section of our meeting, the elected officials report.
Xavier, we have one more public speaker.
Oh, we do. Thank you very much.
Sure. Pilar de Jesus with East Harlem Preservation.
Okay, great. Do you have 3 minutes? Please state your name, contact information, and you may begin.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Pilar de Jesus, East Harlem Preservation. P de Jesus at ehp.nyc. And I'll be very quick. I mostly wanted to, I'm going to try to do this every month, or at least when there's some updates to give as far as what's happening in the cannabis realm. I don't know if folks are aware, but there were some conditional licenses for legal cannabis dispensaries to start operating before the end of this year. And these were licenses that were I want to really highlight, these were conditional. They're not the regular licenses that will be issued come the next year. These were the goal of these conditional licenses, part of the SEED initiative program, was to give an opportunity to the folks who have been the most impacted a head start. I mean, us as advocates have some, pros and cons about this, but overall, the state has approved so far 35 applicants who will be having dispensaries running as per them. I don't really know how realistic it is, but before the end of the year. Don't quote me on this, but I think the 35 that were approved, I think only 2 were approved in New York. But again, don't quote me on that. I don't personally know where the locations are. I think one is in Harlem. I'm not sure if it's in this district. I could also follow up and send that information to the chair and to others in this group. But just so you know that, and maybe you've heard in the news, there's been some enforcement. That is still a big discussion. And just because I know I don't have much time, I am working with the Cannabis Workforce Initiative to bring some educational series to the community, especially to folks in NYCHA properties. Like, that's a lot of our goals, is to have some of these educational events where they have an amazing training. They also can do certification for folks. It's a great training so far from what I've learned. And they're very big in supporting community organizing, and really getting this education, especially to teach people not only about dispensaries, but what it's like to have a business in the industry, and what type of skill sets you're going to need, lots of things. And I probably will be bringing them back with me in January, so that you could get familiar with the Cannabis Workforce Initiative that is being funded by the state. But I'll stop there if there are any other questions, just because of interest of time. But just wanted to provide that update. And also, sorry, the regulations that are going to be like the law of the land for all licenses, they're going to be available for public comment starting December 7th. And I think it would be really good. And I will be open to even sitting with board members and bringing CUNY law attorneys to help understand what some of the regulations have been proposed to, so that we could just talk about maybe submitting comments as a board. And I'll stop.
Okay, thank you very much. We can entertain two questions here, Beverly and then Stephanie.
Yes, thank you, Paula. I went to one of your things that you had in 111th Street for the cannabis, and it was really great and informational. My question to you is regarding the percentage of people that is impact that they given license to. Is there a set number in the legislation that would always stay there for that you would have a certain amount of number of people who the cannabis went to jail for, whatever, or like that, that it stays a set number of people that get these licenses? Because I noticed that sometimes, you know, even though they're given people whose impact the most heads up to get these licenses, when as a people and certain businesses and stuff, and businesses in general don't have the education and stuff that the other people who's coming into this business information or know-how. So it would be kind of great if there's always a set number, because there's been so many of our people that has been impacted by the laws against cannabis back in the past, you know. So it would, like, you know, just so we can catch up. It's hard for us to catch up if they just give us a short period of time to be the first in there. But if we don't have that information and know-how to start these type of businesses or to read the fine prints and stuff like that, it would be, you know, I think prudent for us to have a certain amount of numbers that's given out during the year.
So Beverly, could you shorten your question? Because I think I got lost in that. So what's your specific question?
If there's going to be a set number of licenses to people whose impact.
Okay.
To that,
been
yeah.
impacted by the war on drugs is what.
Right, on the war on drugs, yes.
Okay. Pilar?
So for these conditional licenses that came out of the SEED initiative program that they were giving folks a head start, quote unquote. And the reason why I say that there were some problems with that, because it was justice impacted, and it means there were some specifics to what that meant. But a part of the justice impact was that you had to be a business owner. And a lot of people are like, I didn't have a business. But for that initiative, that SEED initiative, they were only allowing 200 applications. But and they're providing those 200 applications with the retail location. Like, they're working with landlord. The state is working with landlords to get the applicants who went for these conditional. And I want to be I have to like say this 1,000 times, conditional licenses. And they're supposed to be working with them and getting them funding to help them start their business. With these conditional. Now, when it comes to the regular licenses, we don't know if it's going to be capped. We have been told that they're not going to cap licenses, but then there's also been talks about when it comes to dispensary licenses. And I'm being very specific to dispensary because there are 9 licenses types. But there are talks that there are going to be caps, but then I've talked to the OCM chair and she said no caps. So we're not clear which direction they're going. And I still haven't gone through the whole 282 pages to see what they're saying as far as dispensaries, if they are planning to cap in the regulations. But to answer your question, there are no caps in that we know of yet in the regular licensing. And then for conditional, they are caps. And then to talk about, this is something else that we have learned, that the social equity officer and his team that is supposed to look at the numbers of the folks who have been the most impacted, they just received all arrests from 1980 to I think to 2019 or 2020 by district. I forgot what the breakdown is, but there are over 1.5 million of cannabis arrests. So they're going through that, and then the next year they're going to be using that data to really help to which communities are impacted and which ones should be receiving revenue from the cannabis revenue, and also, like, again, servicing people who are from those areas that have been the most impacted. So there's more to come, But for conditional licenses, there were only 200 applications allowed, and they've only right now approved 35, and we're told they're probably going to approve another 10 or a couple more before the end of the year.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. And reminder to our board members, please be succinct and germane to the questions and making sure so the response can be just as brief. Stephanie, your question, please.
Yeah, so really quick question, more like a comment. Pilar, I know you're coordinating and you're working with the Bronx Foundation, having an event in the Bronx, and just wondering if you can share like a link or something so people can know about it. From my understanding, they're recreating a dispensary, how it should look, and Pilar, hopefully, if she gets space adequately for it, she's gonna be providing the training. So you can maybe on our little thing, if you can like send out the flyer, or we could share that. It's gonna be this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. And it's gonna be 3 days, if I'm not mistaken, right? Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But Pilar will be presenting on Saturday. So I think that's something we should share with the community, and people should go so they can kind of get an idea of what a dispensary should look like.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so we're working with Bronx Foundation, and we may have to cancel the community event due to the restrictions of space. The training that we wanted to do, I just came from the location. But overall, it is happening that's still moving forward is that you would have access to a dispensary showroom. So anyone here, I also should invite, the board to be part of the press conference on Friday the 9th. But the idea is to show the community what a legal dispensary looks like and how it operates from the front to back. And it's like a 40-minute tour, and they're going to go over what it is to like operate a dispensary. And it was our duty, when I say a couple of organizers, to organize a community training on this Saturday. But right now we're having problems with the location. So we may have to move at least the training to hostels while the showroom will remain at because the event is happening at the historical post office at 558 Grand Concourse. But the idea is so that folks will know what a legal dispensary looks like and how it's supposed to operate. And it's open to the public from December 9th to the 11th. And we're personally working on a training program for the 10th. But I also plan to bring the same program to East Harlem.
Thank you. That's a great question and recommendations stuff. Thank you, Pilar. I'm going to have to move the meeting along, and always you're welcome to come back to executive committee where so many committees overlap as we're trying to figure out this process and get advisement from the state. So we welcome you to come back and give an update and collaboration. Okay. Wonderful. Good seeing you. All right. I believe that concludes now, Angel, our pre-registered public speakers, correct?
That's correct.
Wonderful. We're going to move the agenda along, and we have our elected official reports. We are going to have 2 moments where we're going to go out of order on the agenda. We're going to, before I read in the rules and everything, we will have our borough president go first because I believe he's going to be bouncing around this evening, and we will have a special presentation from District Attorney Alvin Bragg at approximately 8:15 p.m. and we will pause the business session as is needed, although we only have a few items to get through. So that may be some incentivization. So first, elected official reports. We will now hear from our elected officials or their representatives who are in attendance. If you've not already signed up to speak, we ask that the elected officials or their representatives please alert our staff in the chat if they wish to give a report. We ask the event and service literature be sent to our office so that we may post it and share it as is appropriate. Please keep your report to 3 minutes and to be mindful not to repeat what others have already mentioned. And since we don't have the clock on the screen where you can see it, I'm going to ask Khalid if he would be so kind at the 1 minute up to just announce 1 minute remaining. That would be great and very helpful as we work through our technical difficulties. Okay, and so we're going to go to our borough president who is in the virtual house. Borough President Mark Levine.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. It's wonderful to see you all, CB11. I see my friend and colleague, Deputy Speaker Ayala is here, and I don't want to keep her waiting, so I'll try and be brief. I was excited to hear your discussion on the emerging industry of cannabis. I'm excited about what this can mean for our community, for Uptown, for CB11, for New York City, for formerly justice-involved New Yorkers and more. I am concerned at the number of unlicensed vendors, which have been increasingly visible in storefronts around the neighborhood and the city that could pose an unfair challenge to people who are going through the licensing process. And we've been in discussion with the mayor's office about this, and the sheriff's office is working on inspecting and enforcing the laws around this. We think that it's important that people who go through the process to get a license don't face that kind of unfair competition. So more to come on that. Appreciate the way this board has been very, very involved in this. Thanks to all of you who attended one of our trainings in the last couple of weeks. We had over 600 folks for community board members from CB11 and around the borough attend our online trainings. We had an expanded menu this year. We were really excited about the turnout and the reaction. If you missed it, don't fear, we're going to be running another round in the spring, or I think in around March. We're also working to get videos of the trainings we offered in recent weeks online, available to you and the public. So stay tuned for that. We hope to have much more to update you. A few policies we've been working on, I want to mention. CB11 is a waterfront community and often left out of the conversation of neighborhoods that are vulnerable to extreme weather in this era of climate change. And
1 minute notice.
And I want to tell you about a policy we have proposed to create a new city agency for waterfront protection that would streamline the process for resiliency infrastructure along waterfronts, including in East Harlem, which is, as you know, vulnerable to storm surges. We are working on legislation in the council on this. Would really love CB11 to weigh in. We want to protect this community from the extreme weather that is already here. I'm thrilled that we passed a bill to deal with the severe shortage of public bathrooms in New York City. This is true in East Harlem and CB11 and beyond. This is a problem for all of us. We've all been caught out there. This bill would require the city to find one location in every zip code to create a new public bathroom. So equity is built in. No neighborhood's going to be left out. No zip code will be left out, because this is affecting every community. I would love CB11's input on this. If you have thought about good locations and good methods for creating new public bathroom infrastructure inside in the board, let us know. We would like to give those suggestions to the city. We want the communities involved in this. I know my time is almost up. We have been working for months now on our Million More Trees initiative in conjunction with all 4 of my fellow borough presidents. We called for the planting of 1 million more trees, street trees, trees in school properties, on NYCHA campuses, on rooftops, obviously in parks and elsewhere. We are asking community boards all over the city to weigh in with support of this initiative with resolution. It's very rare that every community board in the city weighs in on a given topic, other than land use actions like zoning text amendments. So it will make a splash. I think this is very important in CB11, which has demonstrably fewer street trees per block per capita than other neighborhoods, than other wealthier neighborhoods. And it's a source of inequality. So we want to correct that by the planting of more trees in CB11 and elsewhere. So I think my time is almost up, and I see hands are raised. So Mr. Chair, I'll pass it back to you. If there's time to take questions, I'm happy to.
We can entertain a few questions. Absolutely. Thank you for being with us.
It's a pleasure.
Jessica, then Eugene.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Borough President Levine. I'm the chair of the Environment, Open Space and Parks Committee. So all of the initiatives that you just spoke about ring true to everything that we care about in our committee, and things that we've been paying attention to really closely in terms of environmental justice in East Harlem. Just a few quick points. You mentioned you're asking for feedback. We spoke with Porfirio about the restrooms initiative, and I mentioned him that equal is not necessarily equitable, whereas other communities we all get 2 restrooms, for example, per zip code. It doesn't change the fact that East Harlem might have, vastly fewer restrooms overall.
Yes.
compared to other districts. And then when it comes to street trees, we're super excited for more street trees. That helps with heat and resiliency. But one big thing that we've encountered in our district is the need for street tree maintenance in an ongoing fashion, and
Yes.
not relying simply on the businesses and residences adjacent to the tree. And that's it. Thank you so much for all of your work.
All your points are so on point, and you can't just plant a tree and walk away. We've learned that really from the first Million Tree Initiative, which was successful in many ways, but there was later then cuts to the stewardship of the trees, to the pruning of the trees. Pruning of trees, by the way, is important for the health of the tree. It also ensures visibility of things like street lights and traffic lights and all of that. So we share your priority on not just planting, but maintaining our precious street trees and trees around the city. So thank you for all those comments.
Great. Thank you. Candy, you have your hand, your question?
Carlos, can you mute?
Hello,
Yes.
can you hear
Candy.
me? Hi. So are you going to be working with community-based organizations to engage in helping out with the trees? Because I remember at the time when Bloomberg was doing the 1 million trees, the 116th Street Block Association was a big participant in distributing trees to the neighborhoods from all 5 boroughs, and that stopped once they already reached the 1 million. But I did see that a couple of our trees were taken down as well. Once all of that stopped, we need to start, rebuilding that all over again and replanting. So I just want to know if you're going to engage other community-based organizations to help out with that.
Absolutely. And thank you for your interest, longstanding interest in this issue, Candy. If you have specific locations of empty tree pits, for example,
I do.
let us know. We'll coordinate with your wonderful city council office. But we would like to help you prioritize, first and foremost, filling every empty tree pit. That's a lot easier than building a new tree pit. It's quicker, it's cheaper. So that really should be the first move. So let us know about those locations. We'll coordinate with Deputy Speaker Ayala's office, and we'll get that addressed as soon as we can.
Okay,
Thank you,
thanks.
Candy.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. Okay, Pilar, I see you have your hand raised. Do you have a quick question?
Yeah, so it's really more like a quick comment. I put it in the chat. If I have never learned this until recently. If, my comment is if we could really focus too about planting more female trees. I was told that kind of like stopped because I guess the fruits and so I guess what some of the trees, the sanitation or the cleanup that comes with having female trees versus pollen. But I feel like, especially as a person who has issues with pollen, I think we really need to think about when we're planting trees that we're considering planting more female trees, especially I think when we're talking about the planet and the soil and seeds, the importance of seeds, but also like how pollen kind of affects us. So I guess my comment will be is that let's also talk about maybe planting an equal number of female and male trees and not just focus on male species.
I appreciate you raising this point, Pilar, and I'll pass that over to the Parks Department and try and let you guys know what kind of response we get. It's something I would love to help work on. We learned a lot about what kind of trees to plant from the first Million Tree Initiative, including what species of trees. And one thing that we learned is you really should mix up the species on a given block so that if there's some sort of sickness that impacts one species of trees, it doesn't spread through the whole block. As an example, we learned a lot more about what kind of trees do well in the difficult urban environment. So I think a lot of ways we can do it even better than we did a decade ago, but appreciate your point on the pollen issue, and I'll pass that on to the Parks Department.
And I love my mulberry trees on East Harlem. Like I know some
Is that
people don't
right?
like it, but I love it. Like there's so much benefits to mulberries. But anyway, thank you.
Oh, you got it, Pilar. Okay, I think we finished all the questions. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, CB11. Really always enjoy having time with you. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, Barbara, and good to see you. Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone's time and patience. And that was a great question and for botanists in training, I suppose. So that's a unique point and something our kids should learn about, that trees have different genders depending on the species. So we're going to move along to our elected officials or their reps. I believe I heard that Councilmember Deputy Speaker Ayala is here. If there is Angel, is she signed up, or is that Elsie?
No, Diana's on.
I'm here.
Wonderful. Well, if no one is opposed, we'll let you give you your report. We'll be getting the clock, and I'll get a note from Khalid. Okay.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. All right, I'll try to be as succinct as possible because I'm on my phone in my car and I don't want somebody to call me and then you can't hear me. But hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Really grateful to the community partners that chimed in and were really helpful in helping us get, upwards of, I think, about 1,000 turkeys that we were able to distribute. I think this year was very difficult. Obviously, people still are, in great need, and turkey situation is a little hectic. There's a serious turkey shortage for those of you that care or don't know, and they were super expensive this year. So we got an overwhelming number of requests. Unfortunately, we could not fulfill all of those. We did the best that we could, but I think overall, people were pleased with the donations, and so I want to thank all of the partners that helped make that happen. I know that I hope you guys have been paying attention to what's happening with the redistricting commission. They've made their recommendations in terms of the maps that dictate what area each council member will be overseeing next cycle. So as a result, there will be an election in June because there have been amendments to the lines. Usually what happens is that after the commission submits their final version, then it comes to the city council, and the city council can weigh in on whether or not we're okay with the lines or we want to make further changes. We can, in theory, make recommendations and send it back to the commission, but then the commission will put out what would be the final, and the council has absolutely no say. Based on the recommendations now, we're fine with the lines as are. I think there were maybe 2 or 3 councilmatic districts that were changed quite drastically. That didn't happen here. We probably lost a little bit of the tip of the High Bridge part of the Bronx, and we gained some of the southern part of East Harlem. So we're now in the high 90s, where before we were, on 99th Street. But for the most part, our districts are going to remain the same. I know that we've been talking about the HERC situation at Randall's Island and the asylum seekers and what impact that's had on the city. To date, we have close to 20,000 people, asylum seekers, that have come to the United States looking for asylum, who were sent from Texas to New York City. We have seen a slowdown of buses. So now, where the city was getting close to 9 buses a day of asylum seekers. We're now getting a bus maybe, every 3 or 4 days. And that's a result of conversations that the president has been having at the border with Mexico. But that is scheduled to change at the end of the year, right? Those agreements are temporary, and they only slow down a process. And so unless there's a solution, we may possibly see an uptick in the volume of people coming into the United States after the beginning of the new year. The HERC was opened as a result of that, because what happens is that when a person, and I'm sorry, Xavier, just bear with me a minute, when an individual comes in here and they seek asylum and they're looking for housing, they automatically get connected to DHS. When that happens, it triggers the laws that we have that mandate us to find individuals a place to live. And we were just unable to meet that mandate because there were so many people coming at such a large volume and so quickly that the city had no other choice than to start utilizing hotels to house families, which, we, I think, all agree is not ideal. And what we learned was that during that process, a lot of people were saying, well, I didn't even intend to come here. Like, I wanted to go to Florida, or I wanted to stay in Texas, but I wanted to go to another part of Texas. And they told me I had to get on this bus. And so those people get reticketed and they get sent back to where they were going to come from. So as opposed to having them hold a bed at a shelter that is needed for long-term use, then those individuals, the idea was to move them, put them in the HERC. We had some objection as to where they were placed in the HERCs. And eventually they settled on Randall's Island. We didn't have a say on that because that's being done by executive order. But that HERC has since closed down because at the same time that it was open, the policy changes at the border drastically reduced the population, and so we weren't really needing the number of beds that we have. So so they downsized. Again, this could be temporary, and they're using more and more hotels, but that's the situation there. I really wanted to highlight something that may be impacting a lot of community members. HRA as an agency has a serious backlog of cases, recertification cases and new applications. So the recertification cases are not being processed, while at the same time the number of new applicants is significantly increasing. And that's problematic because every city agency right now has staffing shortages. And so they're not able to comply, with their requirement to fulfill those applications and get people their food stamps and cash assistance benefits. I've had people that have been applying and waiting for 3 months to get their food stamps benefits allotted to them, which is a long time, right, for families that are already struggling. So we have been working with the Department of Social Services and have asked on their behalf. I've personally spoken to the governor's office and spoken to the federal government, supporting their requests to push forward recertifications upwards of a year to allow the agency an opportunity to catch up and to concentrate on new applications. And that way there's no interruption of service. And, I think this is really important to us because a lot of families that I represent in this district, both in East Harlem and the South Bronx, unfortunately, right, are in need of some level of assistance, be it food stamps, be it Medicaid, be it cash assistance, but most importantly, also, rental assistance. We have families that, need to pay back rent because they weren't working during the pandemic that are still in limbo, and those requests are also not being honored at the moment. So they will be. It's just taking a little bit longer, but it's something that many people were not aware of. So we will be holding a hearing on that on the 15th of the month. And then finally, there was a little bit more of a controversial issue with the syringe letter. So, we've been going back and forth as an office and working with members of obviously leadership at the community board regarding the opioid crisis. I just want to really reiterate that the opioid crisis is not specific to East Harlem. It's something that unfortunately is a national crisis. We're seeing it everywhere. I've been seeing this in the South Bronx for the last 5 years. We're only now starting to see it post-pandemic, and in the East Harlem part, in the way that we're seeing it. And I get it. Like, it's a lot, when you're physically in the presence of somebody that's injecting themselves, that is a lot to process. I've had to do that. And so I understand that, but these individuals are really, really sick and they really need, to get, and I know many of us on this call know somebody that knows somebody or has a family member that has suffered with substance use disorder or is currently suffering from this. And we get it. It's a complicated process, but in the midst of all of this, the city has absolutely no plan to address this. So we introduced 2 bills. One bill will force the city to create a plan that's based around that community in regards to the opioid crisis, right? So that would then trigger multiple agencies to kind of come in and do what they have to do to make sure people are getting services, but to also make sure that we're addressing the unintended consequences of drug use, right, into the streets that now you as public citizens are witnessing. One of the second bill, which is the one that we already passed, we just voted on it last week, is the syringe buyback program. And you may think, yeah, Diana lost her mind, and I have lost my mind a little bit because I'm sick and tired of picking up syringe litter myself out on the street. Like, I literally have containers in my office, and people have seen me. They know I pick them up because I rather pick it up in the moment than have to wait 2 and 3 hours for somebody to come. I have funded some of our nonprofit organizations to go out there and pick up needles. I'm so thankful for them because it would be worse without them. We also created a program thanks to our advocacy with sanitation to help pick up needles. So those programs already exist, and we still are not able to control, to take back control, right, over the number of syringes that are improperly disposed of on our streets and our public playgrounds. Right now, some of our schools are suffering, from this. They can't even let the kids out because there are needles everywhere. And so to address that, we proposed a bill that would create a pilot on 5 communities where there's the highest need, where we would, in essence, incentivize the return of the dirty needle for 20 cents a needle. And it's a pilot. I know that it sounds, unconventional. I get that. It is not lost on me. But quite frankly, I rather that than having my kids playing, any one of your kids, your grandkids playing in a playground and accidentally getting pricked, because that is a public health issue that we needed to address years ago, and we have neglected to do that. And so in my attempt to remedy a situation and in an act of desperation, that is where we arrived, and I'm happy that we arrived there. But I wanted you to hear that from me, because I think people always, make assumptions about what's happening or not. This is why, I proposed that bill, because these are things that are happening every single day in our community, and they shouldn't happen in our communities. Discriminatory, outright racist. And, I've had enough of it. So I'm done with my report. I'm happy to take any questions, and just wanted to also know that I will be sending an invitation to those of you that want to come and meet and, just chat and have questions on things that are happening in the community, projects that we're working on, because I know that we don't have enough time, really interfacing to discuss those. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Diane. Yeah, we tend to give a little bit of extra time for our electeds when they show
I
up.
appreciate that.
Which is encouraging. I'll reserve my comments to the end, but Eugene.
Thank you, Chairman Santiago. And how you doing?
I'm in front of your house, Eugene.
I know. I should just go outside and talk to you, right?
You can just come outside and talk to me.
But you know what I want to talk to you about. I just want to know an update on what's going on at the Julia de Burgos. And maybe we should be talking with the city about putting theater programs in the theater at the Museo del Barrio, as well as the Julia de Burgos.
So I did speak. I have spoken to both the city and to the commissioner of cultural affairs about the theater aspect of this. In terms of the Julia, there's not a lot of change, unfortunately. There's a lot going on there. The theater has to be renovated. It hasn't, that work hasn't started yet. We also have the issue with schools. We have 2 schools in that building. It's a very small building. Well, 1 school in that building, the Heritage High School. Those kids are like, sardines in that building. So we're trying to get them out. We've been proposing different alternative sites to build schools on. We had a commitment that you guys voted on, Community Board 11 voted on, to build on 96th Street and 2nd Avenue, between First Avenue, and then I think there's a school on 2nd Avenue. It doesn't look like that's gonna happen. So that means that while we work all of that out, the kids are still in the building. We can't really do much with the building. So I'm trying to see if we can get them out. The plan is to eventually have the theater up and running, have it, soundproof, so that we can enjoy it year round, and we're not interfering with any activities that may be happening on the first floor community center, and then maybe convert the top into some sort of cultural hub, or worker cooperative for artists that kind of mimics what's happening at PS 109, with the exception that people would not live there. So that's kind of where we are. But we've also funded through the Hispanic Federation. We've given them resources to work with local artists, and I think that they're going to be doing some sort of lottery or whatever, where they would select up to 10 groups that could provide programming at a very reduced, if not free of charge, rate at the Julia de Burgos this year. So stay tuned for that. We'll make sure to announce it.
Councilwoman Ayala, you do know that they've been soundproofing the floor at the Julia for the last 10 years.
Yeah, they have the money. The money's there. Unfortunately, some of the money, is a capital project, and the funding that was provided was for capital, and then they identified that not all of it was eligible. So that means that we have to put in the difference with expense funds. But because the school hasn't left and, COVID happened and, everything it has not been a priority for the city. We've had a change in leadership in the administration, but we are on top of it. And hopefully by next month, I should have some information for you about turnover there and in regards to the upgrades to the theater.
Yeah, one final point. I hate to be a pain, but I've put on shows in the theater that that without soundproofing, and the theater is usable now.
Yeah, it is.
Reason why we can't use it, 24/7.
No, we're gonna use it. We're gonna use it. But it's still scheduled to be renovated.
All right.
Yep. Thank you, Eugene. And again, having been in the space recently, I did raise that advocacy point. So thank you. I've got time for one more. I'll give two if they're very quick questions because I've got to move the agenda along. So Pilar, you have a quick question, and then Dr. Sharon Gonzalez.
Hola, Diana. Thank you for your updates. I really do, I like to hear this program that you were mentioning with the Save the Needles. And I guess my most comment is maybe, I'd be willing to work with your office. And I think it's a great solution possibly for it's not really addressing the root of the problem. And I think that we really need to talk to why people are even using drugs, right? And I think I put in the chat about us even looking into auditing what happened to the $1 billion, because a lot of what we're seeing with drug use and mental health is obviously there's a lot of that due to the what happened during COVID, but our people have been living in the street, dealing with a lot of barriers, especially our Black and brown people. And so this is that effect. And I feel so if we could, I think this is a good solution to address, what we're seeing, but we really need to address the cause. And I really want to stress, as a council member, and I stress this to the state legislators, we have a really serious housing issue. The courts are not listening to us about slowing down. Landlords are using loopholes. We need to, really figure out a way, because housing, in my opinion, is what is kind of the root of what you're seeing. The lack of housing or access to housing is what you're seeing. So
Pilar,
I think
sorry to interrupt, Pilar. Do you have a question in particular, or is that?
No, it's just mostly comment. What are we doing to get money back from even organizations like Thrive New York City to help us really find solutions?
Okay, thank you. That's a helpful question. Thank you, Pilar.
I think so. The Attorney General sued some pharmaceuticals, and we were able to get some money from that in the city. The mayor's office is handling where that money will be going, but we will be having a hearing, and I believe that Councilman Belinda Lee, who's the chair of mental health, put in a bill that would that would force them to break down how we're using those dollars. Unfortunately, what happens is that for us, we don't really ever get to see that the impact of those dollars, because the money is going directly into programs and services that are providing harm reduction work, which in all fairness, a lot of them. But we're also creating, I think, industries. And this is just my 2 cents. We're not necessarily that a lot of that work you're not seeing it out on the street. So people are still complaining, rightly so, because the people are publicly injecting right in front of La Marqueta, in front of the kids at school, right on 116th Street, on 25th Street. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more clarity about how they're prioritizing that. But the second bill that I mentioned, the one that would force a community-based comprehensive plan around the opioid crisis that's very specific to the community, hopefully will give you a little bit more information and create a strategy to address the long term. Because you're right, this bill absolutely does not, and I have never intended for it to solve the opioid crisis, but rather address another crisis that has been created as a result of this.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to have to move things along. So please, I need very specific questions so we can keep things going, because we have a full agenda ahead as well as another presentation. Dr. Sharon Gonzalez, your question?
I just had a question about simple. Is there a way to prevent any additional substance abuse programs from opening in Harlem? Because you have some areas that are substance abuse deserts. So part of the problem is we have over 20% of those in Harlem. So we have an oversaturation of people coming. So is there anything that we could do to stop any more from coming?
I mean, we haven't, I don't, that I know of, we haven't added any additional programs. As you know, the state OASIS handles that. But I do know of, there have been attempts to relocate some from like the west side of Harlem, you know, to the east side because they've been outpriced. And you know, they needed a new home. We've been very successful both, you know, at the local level and through the community board to stop that, so that we're not adding. But you're right, we're oversaturated. The issue is that we've been oversaturated for many years, and that's not an excuse. But because of that, because we have been, it's very, and those groups have long-term leases. There's no way to terminate the lease unless they're doing something they're not supposed to. And unfortunately, it's very, if they close and they try to, you know, relocate and move somewhere else, it's very unlikely that anybody's going to let them do that, right? So they're not moving. We've asked, we have, you know, attempted to use, you know, our platforms to, you know, really highlight the you know, the harm that oversaturation, you know, can cause, even for the individuals that we're trying to help. You know, it becomes problematic, right? So we want to be sensitive to the issue, but we want to be real. Like this is, it's too much. But, you know, just to answer your question, we have not, you know, added more programs, even though, you know, it may look like that. We, you know, what some of the programs are doing is opening, like, you know, housing and, you know, people that are, that use substance use, you know, some sort of substance, and that's why it looks like it's more. Yeah, but it's a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Marissa, Giselle, do you have two quick questions so we can move along, please? Thank you.
Yes, and I do, Xavier, I always totally respectfully, I think this is a, you know, I know we don't want to parade this topic, but like, I think a lot of people have hands just because they, you know, just want to comment.
Absolutely. I hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And Diana, hi, thank you. And nice to see you again. I think this is absolutely necessary. I wanted to ask, was there ever a point of discussion where there was possibly a conversation for some of the organizations that are here to take some of their funding and as a part of what they are supposed to be doing, also bake into that some sort of needle cleanup, right? So
they do that. But I mean, the only group that I know that's actively out there picking up needles is On Point, and they were quite frankly doing it before we even funded the program, right? Before we funded that part of the program, because they wanted to be helpful. So they've been at like Carver Houses, at Taft Houses on 116th Street. They do, you know, Ronald McNair Park. They do, you know, our park. They do PS 57. They're the only program, but it is part of their work. The problem is that the opioid crisis, you know, that we're facing is so big, right? That even with the resources that we have, we're not able to make a dent, right? We would have to be there all day picking up, you know, and it's problematic.
So what I would say in addition to your proposal, and just one quick comment, and a suggestion is to maybe also see if there's a way to mandate the other organizations that are within this community to do a better job and kind of do what they're supposed to do, so that you wouldn't have to create now a new program because people aren't doing what they were intended to, right? And I mean, that's a bigger fight. I know that's like a, you know, that's a bigger fight, but it's like, look, if you're here, we expect you to be here. We expect you to be good neighbors and do what you're supposed to do, not to have us now create something else to clean up. You know, we're already doing this. Like we're already, you know,
I just want to clarify though. I just want to clarify, Marissa, that those programs were never intended to go out. Like, you know, this is what I mean. We don't think, right? There's like no common sense when we're planning. They, you know, we created the needle exchange program because we had to, right? Because we want to make sure that we're reducing the number of HIV rates and the number of you know, people that are infected with hepatitis C. We've been very successful in that way. But the more needles we give out, right, to prevent that, the more needles we're seeing out on the street. And there was never a plan or a part of those contracts that mandated that those same organizations. So some of them are really good neighbors, right? And some places, right? Some parts of New York City, some of them are really good neighbors, and they do that, or they figure it out, and they're like, you know what, we want to be helpful. We don't want to get the blame for this. We want to go out there and we're going to clean it up. But many are not, because it's not contractually, obligated. Point has been really good about that, and because they were really good and they were under resourced and understaffed, then we created a pipeline, a funding pipeline to be able to help them with that. But it is not written in their contract, and it should be, because if you're giving it out, there should be a plan
Yeah,
for who's picking it up.
right, because now we're looking for another way to clean up, something.
Right.
So, okay, but thank you. Regardless, thank you for at least shedding some light on this, because it's definitely needed, and no more centers here, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Xavier.
Yeah, you're welcome. Of course. Thank you. Giselle.
Evening. Thank you, Xavier. Hi, Diana. Thank you for
Hi,
your time. My question was, you mentioned that we lost a little bit of High Bridge. So which council member would be representing High Bridge, or do you know?
Councilmember Althea Stevens.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question, Giselle. And again, I welcome everyone. I'm really glad you're all in the space. The city is enduring something that's not been seen for about 40 years. And for those that remember the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it's tragic is the only word we can use for it. And just as a reminder to all members of the public, we welcome you. We're very glad you're here, and that this is all community board meetings are public meetings, and that the difference between a public meeting and a public hearing is a public hearing, the attendees get to speak, right? And we get that data so we can actually make decisions that are informed. Most of our committee meetings have that engagement naturally. So again, for those, it's not that we don't want to hear you, and the reason why I'm prompting us to move along with very specific, exacting questions is because that means we get to extract more information from our elected officials or their reps very rapidly. And again, that courtesy extended is really to help because of what we're dealing with right now in these very strained times. So that's why I'm opening up to treat it a little bit more like a public hearing this meeting versus other times. So I will, that just so everyone's clear on that, public meeting versus public hearing. So I'm really trying to be inclusive and engaging, and me prodding things along is just to make sure that we can get as much information from our electeds given the limited amount of time. Nilsa, I'll give you the last question, and then we're going to let Diana get out of her car. So Nelson.
Hi, Diana, my friend. I haven't seen you in a long time, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you, Boo.
Yes.
A quick question. I don't know. I know Elsie does, your staff does a fabulous job, but I have some particular questions, both of multi-service here in Manhattan and the one in Hunts Point, which through the redistricting you still maintain. So I'm just wondering, I know with all your busyness, are there any days that you know for sure that I could probably reach out to Elsie just maybe for a 10-minute chat, just to find out your thoughts, especially on the redevelopment of the MSC, and then the revitalization of the HPMSC.
Yes. Well, I'll be there tomorrow. If you want to call tomorrow, you're more than welcome to.
All right. Thanks.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you, Council
Thank you,
Member.
guys. Thank you, guys.
We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. We're going to move along. I appreciate everyone's patience, and we have our next, we have from the Comptroller's office, Evelyn Collado, and then Nina Norwood from Rep. Espiats. So.
All right. Good evening, everyone. CB11, and thank you, Chair Santiago, for the opportunity to present tonight. I'd like to bring attention to some of the initiatives and reports that our office have released in the last few days, including our outline of the framework for comprehensive property tax reform, which addresses long overdue relief for overtaxed homeowners and advances a better way of taxing multifamily development in the wake of the expiration of the 421A property tax break for new development. We also released our Cap the Credit report, laying out steps to strengthen the implementation of Local Law 97, or the Climate Mobilization Act, which is designed to dramatically curb building emissions. We are, as the result of our analysis of over 23,000 buildings covered by the law, we issue an order of recommendations as the Department of Buildings holds a hearing on proposed rules for implementation of this law that will take effect in 2024. We are mainly calling for limiting the use of RECs, renewable energy credits, to 30% of the building's emission overages, warning that failing to do so will create loopholes in these rules that would prevent real on-site emission reduction. We also released the several audits conducted by our Bureau of Audit, with analysis of several city agencies to determine whether the funds were expended or utilized efficiently and economically. And you can access all these reports on our website at controller.nyc.gov. We also released our popular annual financial report that gives a layman's view of our city's finances. Some of the highlights of this the last report look at the health of the housing and cost of rent in New York City, as well as employment levels. Lastly, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you to our Housing Now conference. We are hosting it in conjunction with the Interfaith Center. It will be on December 15, starting at 9 a.m. From 9 to 2 p.m. will be over Zoom. With the main speaker will be New York City Comptroller Brad Lander. And from 4 to 6, it will be in person. We'll be meeting at 4 p.m. sharp in front of 256 West 153rd Street for a tour of one of Harlem Congregations for Community Improvements affordable housing sites. And that will be from 4 to 6 p.m. I'll add the information on the chat for the conference, as well as my information if you would have any questions or follow-ups. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you for being in the space with us. We still look forward to having the comptroller attend a walkthrough in the community. If you would kindly follow up with our office on that, appreciate it. Any questions from our board members? Seeing that there is none, thank you very much for being in the space with us, and we hope you have a great evening.
Same to you. Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. Nina Norwood from Congressman Espaillat's office, you are up next. I'm gonna just to make it more helpful, since you don't have it in front of the screen, I'll just call when you have 1 minute left to make it easier for everyone. Okay, Nina?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me this evening. Good evening to the board and everyone on the call. My name is Nina Norwood, Deputy District Director for the Congressman Adriano Espaillat's Harlem office. I'm definitely going to make my update, my report as brief as possible in the interest of time. So first, I want to hope everybody had a very happy Thanksgiving for this past holiday weekend. So my first mention is we would like to definitely recognize the two officers from the 25th precinct who were working on Thanksgiving when a man accidentally fell on the subway tracks, and those officers did a fantastic job in risking their life to rescue that gentleman off the tracks. And we definitely want to announce, we are very proud of those officers doing all that they can to do what they do, which is preserve life for others, and all the honors that they're going to receive behind their heroic act is definitely well deserved. So we definitely want to make mention about that. My second mention also is that the Congressman has now announced the date, save the date for the 5th annual Dominicans on the Hill event. That is going to be Thursday, February the 9th in 2023. The 5th annual Dominicans on the Hill event that will be held in person and live this year. We're very excited about that. It's going to be a very big event at the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C. Held annually during Dominican Heritage Month, Dominicans on the Hill was created by Representative Espaillat to recognize the growing civic engagement of the Dominican American community and throughout the diaspora as a whole. We also, would you like to reserve tickets for that event? You definitely can go onto the Congress Congressman Congressional webpage and click on the Eventbrite link to get more information on how you can reserve your seats for the Dominicans on the Hill event this year. We also are looking to make a formal announcement for the Congressman's State of the District address. So once that date becomes available, we definitely will make sure that information finds its way to the board, so everyone would definitely be able to attend the Congressman's State of the District address. My last mention is Representative Espaillat is seeking public suggestions for songs from Latin artists across the board to nominate for the National Recording Registry. Members of the public can submit songs directly to the Library of Congress. That link is available again on the Congressman's Congressional webpage, where you can click on. So Congressman Espaillat and the Congressional Hispanic Caucus are requesting public submissions for songs from Latino artists that should be inducted into the National Recording Registry. The National Recording Registry is the federal archive managed, of course, by the Library of Congress that preserves sounds with cultural and historical significance to the United States. So far we have received 33 songs and albums for consideration. So we definitely want to hear from the district as a whole and community board, of course, for any songs that is of cultural significance that should be held in the National Archive. Of course, our office is open. Thank you. Our office is open for constituent services Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I will drop all contact information in the chat. So unless there's any questions for me, that will be the conclusion of my report. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Nina. Board members, please raise your hands if you have any questions. Seeing that there are none, thank you very much. Let me see who we have next. Angel we have Tiffany Brown from the Mayor's Community Affairs Unit. Tiffany, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I just have 2 mentions that I want to bring to the board. The first one would be the Get Stuff Clean initiative. Mayor Adams announced $14.5 million in new funding to create a cleaner city through a major upgrade to cleanliness protocols across the 5 boroughs. The Get Stuff Clean initiative will invest $14.5 million this fiscal year alone to clean more than 1,000 no man's land, neglected areas around the city, increase litter basket service, expand camera enforcement against illegal dumping, and bring on additional rat exterminators, resulting in a faster and more reliable cleaning of every corner of the city. And the second mention I want to bring is the Dust and Darkness campaign relaunch, which Mayor Adams announced the return of the city's annual Dust and Darkness traffic enforcement and education campaign to keep pedestrians, cyclists, and all road users safe during fall and winter evenings, especially after the end of daylight saving time. NYPD will expand traffic enforcement of dangerous moving violations during more dangerous evenings and overnight hours. And that's all that I have to report today. I know also, I just wanted to say hello to CB11. I know I haven't met everyone. I will put my contact information in the chat if anyone has any questions or concerns and need to reach out to me. I am the new Manhattan Borough Director. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can feel free to reach out to me, and I will leave my information in the chat before this meeting is over.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Definitely appreciate you being in the space with us. Are there any questions, board members? Okay, see it that there are none. I know we have Marco Perez from the District Attorney's Office, but we will be having a presentation from him at about 8:15. So Marco, if you're fine, we'll just defer until 8:15 when he arrives.
That sounds perfect.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your patience and everyone else's. That concludes our elected officials reports, except for the outstanding one with the presentation from District Attorney Alvin Bragg. We'll now move into our business session. We have no minutes that were provided. There was a bit of a delay from our secretary, Michelle Wilshire Clement. So she will get those for the next one. We now have our chair's report. Let me just pull it up real quick for a second. Okay, bear with me. Try to keep it very brief so we can keep things moving along. I just want to say thank you. I am to all of you. I cannot express my gratitude because I'm seeing so many of you out there in the community actually doing the work. I'm very, very pleased. I want to give a little special shout out, and this is in my report, Giselle Malave, for hosting a Thanksgiving meal with a lot of other community partners. Thank you to John Green, Stephanie Arroyo, Michelle Wiltshire Clement, Rosa Diaz, and other members who came out and served at the Thanksgiving event, bringing people right off the bus, the street. That's how we make things happen in this community. I really appreciate that. Attended the CEC 4 and 5 legislative breakfasts. It was really great to get connected and learn a little bit more about what the needs are for our districts here. If you want to take tours, you can reach out to a number of people, such as David, our Youth and Education Committee Chair, Rosa Diaz, the staff, and they'll introduce you to Christy De La Cruz. Dr. Christy De La Cruz is our superintendent for District 4. This will help with our budget requests for next year, so it's really integral you get involved with that. Last month, I attended Hiram Marastani Way street renaming along with Carlos Diaz, Eugene Rodriguez, Debbie Quinones, and CM Diana Ayala. It's really important that we uplift our heroes and people who have given us visibility when we couldn't be seen by the rest of the world. He's a phenomenal photographer and advocate, and his work has been seen all over the world, including the Smithsonian and other museums and exhibits. The rest I attended the Blessing of Arch Care at the Mother Cabrini Hospital. Thank you very much, Carlos Diaz, for extending that invitation to be with everyone. All my kids and I went to, along with I'm sure several other community board members, brought their children to El Museo's Day of the Dead celebration at La Placita. A lot of fun there. We also attended the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration at the City Council. I was glad to see Rosa Diaz and Stephanie Arroyo and John Green also attend. Really enjoyed the performance by Ballet Hispanico. All of my board members, again, you came out for our Halloween open streets, trick or treat or trunk or treat. And I'm very appreciative of CM Ayala for giving us the candied apples and candy. It was a lot of fun to give out to the community kids and to some of the adults. Michelle Wiltshire Clement and her husband joined, Jessica Morris, John Green, Leroy Andino, Shavasia Robinson Teague. Really appreciate your volunteerism. The rest of this information has been mostly addressed as information purposes only. But I do a couple other highlights. I'm going to give this morning I attended a walkthrough of the OPC at On Point in regards to our feedback from Dr. McCrae from DOHMH. And it was definitely a very interesting experience being in the space again, seeing it at full capacity, and also the impact and the overflow that's happening on the street. So I'm looking forward to our Human Services Committee to continue following up with that and the other accountability measures that we hope to see put in place. But again, it's important for us to work together, and the request for data, which has been refused thus far for the raw data for intake, participation, enrollment. They still didn't have that information available, and it's come up on 1 year. So I think it's very important we pay attention to that. Pleasant Avenue is another area I'd ask for those that live in that area. They are having break-ins and a lot of issues with crime. So I've taken interest in taking tours over in the area and actually participating on walkthroughs through buildings and getting to know the stakeholders in that area. So again, part of our mission is that where we live in various pockets of the community, we should all be participating to engage and get information. So that's summarizes most of the chair report. The rest of it's information purposes only. I'm here at your service and I'm very pleased and honored to be working with all of you. So I appreciate you. Thank you. And that concludes my chair report. District Manager's report.
Good evening, everyone. Be very brief. My report was in the meeting materials, which you all received today. So 3 points. One, the mayor has further extended the emergency order, the COVID-19 emergency declaration for another 30 days, meaning we're able, public bodies such as us, can continue to meet remotely through December 20th, which will include our next scheduled full board meeting. Whomever else is.
Leroy, please mute yourself.
Please mute. Thank you. On November 21st, Khalid and I attended the virtual meeting of the New York State Cannabis Control Board. At this meeting, the board, among other things, approved its required notification to municipalities for cannabis dispensary license applicants. We have not received any such notifications as of yet, despite what was mentioned earlier, and thank you, Pilar, for bringing it up, that some of the dispensary licenses have been approved thus far. I think it's 30 some odd, none in our district as of yet. That 30 some odd, I think it's 35 or 36, is those licensees and their addresses are listed on the Office of Cannabis on the Cannabis Control Board's website. So it's easily findable, as well as the copy of the notification form that will be sent out to community boards for the corresponding applications when it comes to their district. But so far, we haven't got anything. And then lastly, just letting you know that the board office will be closed on December 26th in observation of Christmas, and on January 2nd in observation of New Year's Day.
Okay, thank you. And I don't see any hands for questions. Do we have any officers' reports? Jessica, do you have a vice chair report?
I do not. Thank you, though, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have Jason Villanueva? Do you have a treasurer's report at this time?
No report, just happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Okay. Thank you. Beverly Pavone, you had a question?
Yes, Angel, I know you was talking about books that was being given out at the office. Do you still have those books that you said was collecting dust? Because I was trying to come by there to pick one up, and probably will try to do one tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Sharon Gonzalez. I thank you for being here. I think it's the first time you've attended one of our meetings. Typically in the business session, we're in the business session right now. So when we open back up to the presentation from the DA, we can entertain questions. If you had a question about our process, I hope that answered it. But yeah, during the business session, it's the board conducting business. But thank you. I'm going to move on to committee reports and action items. If it would please the body, I'd like to, John, would you mind if we deferred to, and all other chairs, would you mind through unanimous consent if we just knocked out the action items real quick before the presentation from the DA?
I have no problem with that.
Okay. Adem?
Yep, I'm here. All right, good evening, everybody. I'm going to be quick with this. These were the action items for the License and Permits Committee for this month. Number one was Moncole Eatery. It was an alteration and class change application for a full liquor license for a restaurant at 1590 Lexington Avenue. The committee recommended that that application be approved. Number two was El Paso Cafe Corp. New application for a full liquor license for a restaurant at 123 East 110th Street. The committee recommended that that application be approved. Number four was Spa High Lounge Inc. renewal application for a full liquor license for a restaurant at 1634 Lexington Avenue. The committee recommended that that application be approved. Number four was Taqueria Guadalupe Corp. renewal application for a wine, beer, and cider license for a restaurant located at 1743 Lexington Avenue. That application, I believe, was approved. My screen's cutting off there. Next slide, please.
Those were all the applications I did.
That was it for the month? Okay.
Yep.
I forgot. Thank you.
Those were the only four. So I'm going to bundle items 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is a license 1335791, and then the new full liquor license at El Paso Cafe Corp. At 123 East 110th Street. Number 3, Spa Lounge full liquor license number 1207067, And number 4 is number 1280808. Is there a motion, Jason?
Motion to support the committee's recommendation, Chair.
Okay, is there a second? Eugene,
Second,
please call the roll.
Oh, De Altamirano,
Yes.
Leroy Adino,
Yes.
Stephanie Arroyo,
Yes.
April Autry,
Yes.
Adim Briha,
Yes.
Jahid Chaudhry. Diane Collier is excused. Devon Cronshaw,
Yes.
Kenneth Crouch,
Yes.
Carlos Diaz,
Charlie,
pardon? Did Carlos Diaz say?
No, he did not, but go carry on.
Rosa Diaz,
Yes, and I see Carlos Diaz in the line.
oh, did he text his response?
I think he cannot hear on his phone because he was showing his ear.
Okay, we'll come back. Carry on with the roll call, please.
Angela Donadell,
Yes.
Jessica Elliott,
Yes.
Judith Febrero,
Approve.
Raja Flores, Osendi Garcia, Brandon Gillespie,
yes.
David Giordano,
Yes.
John Green,
Aye.
Wanda Hopkins,
Yes.
Alonzo Johnson, Jewel Jones,
Yes.
Marissa Mack,
Yes.
Hello, Carlos.
pardon?
I said yes, and Carlos also responded.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Giselle Malave,
Yes.
Malik McCullough,
Yes.
Jennifer Mayer,
Yes.
Jessica Morris, Nilsa Orama,
Yes.
Beverly Pabon,
Yes.
Arturo Perez is excused, Claudia Perez,
Yes.
Roberto Perez, Javasia Robinson Teg, Natasia Rodriguez is excused, Eugene Rodriguez,
Yes.
Dawn Sanders,
Yes.
Xavier Santiago,
Yes.
Isaac Scott,
Yes.
Russell Schuler, Vincent Torres, Anne Marie Vasquez, Jason Villanueva.
Present, Anne Marie present.
You're voting on
Vote.
something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. Jason Villanueva,
Yeah.
Hilda Vives Vasquez.
Yeah, Candy says yes.
Okay. Michelle, me, yes. Wiltshire Clement. Jordan Wright. And Jason Wu.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. The motion carries. Wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to, before we have the DA join us, Marissa, I'm going to have you bring your action item and explain it, so we can then vote, entertain a motion and then vote on it, and then we can circle back to the remainder of your report, and then we'll go to the top of the list, starting with housing and work our way back down. Okay.
Okay, sure. Hi. Totally wasn't prepared. I'm usually at the end of the meeting, but that's fine. So in terms of our meeting this month, we had one action item, which was wonderful East Harlem. Hello? I'm sorry. Was I muted that whole time?
No, you weren't.
No,
Carol.
that's
Carlos.
my fault. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, okay. So we have one action item for our meeting, which was the East Holiday Tree Lighting Committee, which presented on obviously our tree lighting that takes place every single year on 106th Street. And as a part of the board, we always support this initiative, which gives, you know, a wonderful holiday presence to our neighborhood and allows for us to gather around this beautiful tree. The tree does not go up on its own and does not just magically appear. It is a collaboration of funds from different areas of the community and the board usually supporting as one of those supporters of this initiative. So this year, the tree lighting committee has requested $1,000 for the cost of again, putting together this tree, and we are one of many sponsors. The cost was, I believe, a little bit lower last year, but because of inflation, you know, and the cost of everything at this time, $1,000 is the request. We did pass this motion at the meeting to support the tree lighting, and so we are now here before the board seeking support as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Marissa. And Jason, you had a question regarding the motion?
I'm ready to make a motion, Chair.
You may.
Motion to support the committee's recommendation.
Is
I
there a
seconded Carlos.
Second,
Uh,
Candy.
Okay.
I have my hand raised.
You
Happy
did
that
have your
everyone
hand
wants to
raised.
support, so that's a
Yes,
good thing.
we'll
Absolutely wonderful
note
thing.
it in the minutes. Call the roll, please.
I too
Candy.
had raised. Jose Altamirano,
In support.
Leroy Edino,
Super yes.
Stephanie Arroyo,
Yes.
April Autry,
Yes.
Adim Briha, okay,
Yes, sorry, yes.
okay. Jahid Chaudhry, Diane Colliers is excused. Devon Cronshaw,
Yes.
Kenneth Crouch,
In support.
Carlos Diaz,
Yes.
Rosa Diaz,
Yes.
Angela Donadell,
Yes.
Jessica Elliott,
Yes.
Judith Febrero,
Yes.
Raja Flores, Osendi Garcia, Brandon Gillespie,
Yes.
David Giordano,
Yes.
I'm sorry, did you say yes, David? I couldn't hear you.
Yes, I just got to the thing late. I'm sorry.
Okay, John Green,
Absolutely.
Wanda Hopkins,
Yes.
Alonzo Johnson, Jewel Jones,
Yes.
Marissa Mack,
Yes.
Giselle Malave,
Yes.
Jennifer Mayer,
Yes.
did I just?
Malik McCullough, yes.
Malik McCullough, okay. Thank you. Jennifer Mayer,
Yes.
Jessica Morris, Nilsa Oramo,
Yes.
Arturo Perez. Wait, did I miss one? Okay, Beverly Pabon. Okay. Arturo Perez is excused. Claudia Perez.
Yes.
Okay, Roberta Perez. Okay, Shavas Robinson Page. Natasha Rodriguez.
She's excused.
Oh,
Yep, let's move.
Eugene Rodriguez.
Yes.
Dawn Sanders.
Yes.
Xavier Santiago.
Yes.
Russell Schuler. Vincent Torres. Anne Marie Vasquez.
Yes.
You said yes? Jason Villanueva.
Here, I mean, yes.
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 Hilda Vasquez.
Candy says yes.
Michelle Wilshire Clement, I say yes. Jordan Wright. Jason Wu.
Yes.
Wonderful. The motion.
Michelle, I
Dan?
didn't hear my name, but I'm in support as well.
I'm sorry, who's, oh,
It's Isaac Scott.
hold on.
Thank you, Isaac.
Thank you, Isaac.
Thanks. And Xavier, I see John. John, do you have a question?
Yes, Marissa, I have a question for you. When is the tree lighting at 106th Street?
I see, and I was just about to say, and I see Kathy is on. Kathy, can you?
It's going to be this Friday at 6:30.
This Friday?
This Friday, correct.
Okay, 6:30. Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank
And
you, John.
We'll come back to the rest of your report, Marissa. We'll just have to go right back down the order, but thank you for everyone. I just didn't want us to lose quorum toward the end of the evening. Now I'd like to, thank you. I'd like to welcome District Attorney Alvin Bragg to give a presentation. He's got about 10 minutes of a report back to us, and we're going to entertain some questions. He's got time for Q&A, and we're going to go, just so everyone understands, set expectations. We'll go to our board members first and then to members of the public, treating it very much kind of like a public hearing in that way. And we will try to accommodate as much time as possible. So I asked again, because he wants to hear your concerns. We want to hear your concerns. So as the old saying goes, brevity is the soul of wit. So keeping the questions concise and direct to the point. So from now, Alvin Bragg, are you here?
I'm here, yes. Thank you so much.
Welcome. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Chair. And I will I just set a timer for myself. I'll try to come in under 10 minutes to give some time back, because I would love to hear the questions too. But thank you to you. Thank you to the district manager. And I don't know, I can't see whether we've got our NYPD partners on, but I want to thank the COs for the 2-3 and the 2-5. Yeah, this is very much a report back. We talked earlier in the year when I talked about some of the things we wanted to accomplish this year, and we heard from you about your priorities, and want to report back on where we are. Substantial progress on some things. Obviously, plenty of work still to be done. Coming out of 2018 and 2019, where we were in a great place with kind of declining crime and declining incarceration, and then we had the pandemic, which obviously created so much dislocation that we now have, I would say, significant public safety challenges, but with some encouraging news within that. And so wanted to talk about first about guns, and then about some of our special victims work, and then about hate crimes and housing, and then our conviction review unit. And I start with guns because it is, I think, I've been in Manhattan just about 50 years now. I think throughout that time, it's been the most significant public safety issue. And I would say particularly, I join you as an upper Manhattanite in our communities. The 2021 data showed that 97% of shooting victims in New York City were Black or Hispanic. And so really particularly hitting the higher part of the more northern part of the island more so than others. But that's why I'm really kind of happy with the news there, which is that shootings are down 19% in Manhattan, which is outdoing the citywide decline, and borough-wide homicides are down 26%, which is compared to an 11% decline citywide. And it's even more so in East Harlem in particular. In the 2-3 and the 2-5 precincts combined, homicides are down 48% and shootings are down 15%. Don't say that to suggest that the work is over, but do want to say that we're seeing very encouraging trends. And it's because of a mix of, I would say, enforcement today of those who are doing harm and investment today to yield fruits for tomorrow. So on the enforcement, we've done almost about 470 or so gun cases, really trying to focus on the significant drivers of violence. I just saw someone in the chat saying thank you for the recent ghost gun case we did in your neighborhood. We've been focusing on gun trafficking, with guns coming into our neighborhood from outside of the state, and sort of wiretap, complex, ongoing investigations. We've been focusing on group violence, where folks are. We had a very large group. We partnered with the feds with shootings, robberies, attempted murder, and a murder. Really, again, focusing on the drivers of violence, and then as that direct message that was just posted suggests, really focusing on ghost guns, which are scary. They're not serialized. It's harder for us to track, harder for us to do what we do in our gun trafficking cases. So we really are doing specific engagement there, and a lot of coordination with our state and local partners and our federal partners. We literally sit around a table every single day and have a conversation, reps from the office, about the most significant drivers of violence and what we're doing to take steps that day. That's the enforcement side of the ledger. We are also, I think, as many of you know, doing investments, really thinking about prevention for the future. So that means something like over the summer, we funded 10 community-based organizations that are working directly with our youth, and not just any youth that are directly affected by gun violence, putting money in their hands during the hot summer months to do things like beautify an area that was marred by gun violence. And I've met with those groups since then. They talked about the impact it had on them. I know many of you know about our Saturday Night Lights programs, which have been to the East Harlem locations. They're up and running and having a positive impact in our community. And specifically, I mentioned that 97%. What are we doing there to kind of address? That's just not just the sort of the victim in the first instance, but the sort of others around us who that affects, including me. And so we formed our Witness Aid Services, our group of clinicians and counselors, a sort of men of color group to focus on the overwhelming percentage. That's who's affected. And we know that could be someone who's a victim today, could be a witness tomorrow, and sort of trying to address that trauma through our clinicians is very, very important. So that's both for our enforcement and our prevention on guns. Want to mention our housing. We started about 2 months ago a new housing and tenant protection unit. One of the dislocations of the pandemic has been, particularly on this island, the effect on affordable housing. Again, not a new issue, but an issue that has become more acute as we come out of the pandemic. And so we wanted to, use the power of the law, really fight on behalf of those folks who are being, targeted and in some senses really affected by our affordable housing crisis. So we created the unit to address, systemic harassment of landlords by tenants. Things like, an entire building that's, in need of lead abatement, and that's not happening, and that's creating a dangerous issue, particularly for our youth. Or as I said, we have some who are directly harassing tenants, trying to get them out of home so they can turn them into a more expensive housing. We had our first case about a month and a half ago in this area, prosecuting. We brought charges against 6 developers who were getting your hard-earned tax money from the 421A tax program. In exchange for that, they were supposed to be providing affordable housing, but they were not doing that. They were instead providing above market rate housing, we allege. And that case is proceeding. So that's the kind of work we're going to be focusing on. Again, thinking about our broader community and stability and how we can be a part of solutions. I want to talk about our special victims division. I'm trying to kind of move a little quickly through this, and I'm trying to cover a lot of ground because I do want to leave time for questions. But we've completely kind of restructured our special victims, really, again, trying to put the sort of our clinician counselors at the center so we can address the trauma, not just, kind of prevail in the cases and hold people accountable, but also really provide real direct, kind of services and help for those who are the victims and survivors. We had a case this summer with a doctor who was a pain doctor who was using really his prescription pad as a weapon and was using it to addict his victims who were his patients, and then he was sexually assaulting them. We took that case to trial, prevailed, and those are the kind of cases, particularly kind of the power imbalance, that our sex crimes unit is doing. I see that my time is going down. I'll just mention that we're also doing a lot in the hate crime space, trying to meet the moment. Hate crimes have really gone up during the pandemic. We've expanded our unit, got additional kind of $1.7 million in funding to do more outreach, to have more investigative strength. And sadly, we're seeing this, and we've seen it, just recently. My office is handling the 2 who were arrested in Penn Station a couple of weeks ago. One was alleged to have said he was on his way to shoot up a synagogue. That kind. Unfortunately, we're seeing an uptick in hate crime cases, but we're staffing to meet the moment. And the last thing I want to sort of say is that we're also looking at the sort of the day-to-day issues, whether that's kind of the shoplifting and some of the disorder, and again using sort of a blended approach of enforcement tools, but also sort of investing in people and communities tools. We had in Central Harlem a kind of a hub where we had us, the police department, Department of Homeless Services, Department of Buildings, because a lot of things were happening with scaffolding, all operating together and really made a productive impact. We're looking to do that and take that pilot elsewhere in the city. We'd love to talk to you and other leaders in your neighborhoods about bringing that on. But we're also expanding our capacity in mental health. We created an entire division that's centered around kind of doing interventions earlier in cases and connecting those who are acting out of mental health illness or substance use, or connecting them and trying to end the cycle of someone who goes, to Rikers for a month and then comes back and does the exact same thing because the underlying issue wasn't addressed. And at the same time, building complex cases, again, to kind of stay in the shoplifting area, looking at the people who are kind of reselling it and following the money and the contraband to try to build bigger cases to deter the conduct. So that's an overview. I think I'm right at my 10 minutes. So I'm going to leave it there because I really would like to get your questions and hear what's on your mind.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation and the update. In order to kind of be efficient as possible with this, we're going to go to board members first who have questions, and then we'll open it up to some of our attendees as well. See how many bites of the apple we can get. So again, I remind everyone, please keep your questions brief and succinct, so that way we can access as much information as rapidly as possible. So, Dawn, you're recognized.
Hi there. Thank you so much for coming to visit and coming to speak with us. Thanks for all of your work protecting tenants and, really dealing with some of these issues where they start. So for example, with the ghost guns, that's a really big deal because ghost guns are coming into our community, sometimes from more affluent communities. And so I really appreciate that. I was going to ask you, do you ever look at crime based on where people are coming from? Because people seem to think that New Yorkers are committing all these crimes, but it seems like we're getting an import of people coming from other surrounding states. Do you guys ever look at that? Where some of these folks are coming from when they come to New York to commit crimes?
That's a really interesting question, Dawn. We do it in some limited ways, and I want to think about that, and maybe there are ways that we can expand it. So we certainly do it in the gun space with where the gun is coming from, by tracing the guns back to their sources, and that helps us build investigations. And like I said, we had a couple of really impactful investigations based on wiretaps, looking at the trail of guns, where they're coming from. So we do it a lot in that context. I don't have data, and it would be interesting to pull. I know Marco's on. Marco is on from Marco Perez, who I think many of you know, is on from the DA's office. So we can follow up on that. My hunch is always sort of a little bit of a, I hesitate to give my hunch, but my hunch is that for this community board, and my guess is that we're not seeing a lot of addresses. Where we do see it's from Penn Station and Port Authority. There's some specific challenges, just to sort of the heavy volume of traffic for people who are coming in directly from out of state, and it creates some issues with trying to hold people accountable who are so transient. But we can take a look and think about that, and look at the addresses of record of people who are arrested.
Thank you for that question, Dawn. Michelle.
Thank you for your presentation. I truly appreciated it. I would like to find out more information on, well, you had said that there was a decrease in the shootings and a decrease within basically a lot of the different crimes within East Harlem, as opposed to the rest of the city. I was also curious to find out, has that decrease also shown with hate crimes?
So a great question, and so the comparator is really just year to date. So comparing us to last year, we're still trying to get down to sort of the pre-pandemic levels. But in Community Board 11, homicides are down 48% compared to last year. And shootings are down 15%. Other types of crime are up, which is why I say there's still a lot of work to do. And hate crime is one of those areas that is up very significantly, from pre-pandemic. And unfortunately, I say hate doesn't discriminate. Lots of different types of hate crimes are on the rise, and so that's why we've expanded our unit, given more resources to it, and trying to meet the moment. But yeah, that has not declined, and a number of other sort of crimes have not declined, and that's why we're going to continue to sort of work in partnership, and try to kind of give the same focused attention that we gave the shootings and homicides this year to other issues, so we can try to bend the curve and get back to our pre-pandemic levels.
I have a follow-up question. With the hate crime unit, are you giving different presentations? And if you are, can you send a flyer to Angel? Or if you have that information right now, can you say when the next presentation would be?
Sure. So in the chat, Marco Perez, who's the East Harlem Community Engagement Coordinator, he put his information, his email, and his phone number. And you can arrange for a presentation. If you say, hey, we want you to come out to whether it's, the community board, a civic organization, youth group. And we have a number of different types of presentations. Some are on fraud and sort of consumer protection. Others are, hate crimes. You can tell folks what to, what to be on the lookout for, and also sort of just talking about our work. So you can call him. I do see something. He said something disregard the email. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, no worries, sir. As the DA has stated, again, my name is Marco Perez Jr. I'm the East Harlem Community Engagement Coordinator. Apologies for the way I sound. I'm not feeling well today, but I'll be the point of contact if there's any presentations that would like to be conducted in any community capacity. Please feel free to reach out to me. I put my contact information. Please disregard an email that I accidentally put in the chat. That was for a direct message, but please feel free to take my contact information down, and we can set that up for you.
Great. Thank you very much. So I'm going to move things along real quick. We have Marissa Mack, Eugene Rodriguez, Beverly Pabon, and then Lou Martins. So we'll see where we land from there. Please, Marissa, your question.
Yes, hi, District Attorney Bragg, how are you? Thank you so much for presenting this evening. I also want to applaud you on the ghost gun situation, and then also in regards to the domestic violence case. I have long believed that, looking at cases for, what has specifically happened, and not to say that you have a life for a life, but just looking at that and examining what's really going on. I think that is something that we definitely need at that level in terms of looking at certain cases. So I wanted to thank you for that ruling as well in regards to that. My question specifically is really around, which is an economic issue as well, but really around a lot of the just the theft that we see right now, right? And so there's a lot that's going on with that, right? Where some of it is an economic need, which is not within the DA's office to solve or to get to the bottom of, right? And so there's an issue that's there that probably needs to be addressed in greater ways. However, some of it is just simply, I can do this, there's nothing that's going to happen to me, and so why not? And while it doesn't directly affect me, it doesn't, I will say that, it doesn't directly affect me, but it does affect an environment, and it does affect a community, and it does reflect on certain communities, and just kind of gives an air about areas, right, and in certain places. And so I know this is not necessarily the forum to go so deeply into this, and I know that it's a controversial issue, and there are many different sides of it. But I just want to know, is there any consideration at this point for, looking at what are some of the ramifications, and just looking at this in a different view, right? And so not to say that you're going to lock people up, because I don't believe that that's necessarily the solution, right? And I don't necessarily believe that that is going to solve, some of the issues. But I also am not in the mind frame that, just saying, look, this is such a small situation that we're not going to do anything about this, right? Or that we're not going to put any funds or resources or time into looking into the situation, because it's not a criminal offense. Because it does have effects on the people around, it has effects on the employees. There are a lot of different touch points, if you will, for, people just coming in and just taking what they will. People have been in and out 10 different times, and it's just like, well, why do we even have any rules in place? So just wanted to know, if there's anything that's being kind of thought about within your office as to how we can look at these situations, right, from different points of view, and see, what are the ways that we can kind of address this, and again, understanding that there are different levels and the economics of it, and there's housing, and there's affordability, and there's jobs, there's a lot that's behind it. but I don't necessarily think the solution is simply, this is not enough for us to really have our hands. There are bigger issues right now. We don't really want to deal with that. So just wanted to respectfully, just get some light on how the office is thinking right now, and if there are any other ways that you might be looking at.
So Marissa, what is the question? If you could summarize that or distill it a little bit, because I know there's a lot of
Right.
background there.
So the question summing up is are there any different ways that the office is looking at some of these specific crimes regarding, just snatch and grab, or theft within our community in certain areas. I live across the street from a mall, so it's like, it's every day. It's every day.
No,
Thank
definitely. And I think you touched upon a lot of the issues and gave it the nuanced treatment that it deserves. So we're doing a few things. And I like to sort of divide the conduct we see into sort of the brazen opportunists who are doing this repeatedly and doing it for profit, for gain, and then those who are clearly suffering from some sort of a mental health or addiction issue and are not doing it sort of in the same systematic way, or if they are, they're doing it out of those issues. So on the first hand, the brazen folks are doing it repeatedly. We formed a small business alliance early in the year and have been kind of partnering with the NYPD and small businesses to sort of really try to get a handle on it. The first thing we did was we looked at the data. We paired our data with NYPD's data. And very interestingly, 18% of the people arrested for shoplifting account for more than 50% of the arrests. So there's a sort of a concentration of a number of people who are doing this repeatedly. And we've been focusing on coordinating with the local precincts, coordinating with the police department at a very high level to sort of focus on that population, and have had some success. It's not as small a population as we see in the guns. We're able to really kind of focus in like a laser, but it had some success kind of focusing our resources on those that are sort of really doing this repeatedly. We are in the middle of some investigations and hope to be able to kind of have more to report soon on sort of like looking at the larger scale, following the money and the contraband, who is really profiting off this, which is really kind of a general kind of thesis of prosecution. And so hopefully we'll have more to say on that. You mentioned a couple of the smash and go, particularly some of the high end places. That product, unlike toilet paper or deodorant or something, some of the more high end product is really being done for resale. So I put that in the kind of opportunistic and sort of structured organizations that are doing this. And then, as you said, there's some folks who you can just sort of see it. Sometimes it's shoplifting, sometimes it is some of the open air drug use. It's the sort of really right there before our eyes. And so for those groups, we are deepening our capacity with our kind of service partners and trying to divert them to get the help they need. Because we've seen what happens when they don't. They go into Rikers for 30 days or so, and they come right back and do the same thing. So it's a blend. It's a blend of sort of traditional kind of targeted enforcement and connecting people with mental health services and deciding really on a case by case and person by person basis.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Marissa. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, correct. Thank you.
Yeah, if I'm going to move along to Eugene, Beverly, and then Lou and Shatima, and I thank you for your patience with these questions. So if you could just fire them right off, that'd be great. So we can get a few more, and then I have one to hopefully bring us to a close. Lou, not Lou, sorry, Eugene.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a quick question. I heard in one of the committee meetings that cops are not allowed to stop drug addicts from shooting up in the street. Is that true?
So, I don't. It's hard for me to give a blanket answer to that. I think probably what is being said there is that they're not, that they're focusing on the sort of sales, which is sort of the, more of an issue that they're seeing, and then on the possession. And it's not that they can't. I know in some neighborhoods we have special narcotics helping out, but it is. I know, and I think I probably know the area you're talking about. And it's something we're sort of thinking about and talking with them is sort of just the best response. I kind of would go back to maybe our kind of the hub that we have on in Central Harlem, where trying to figure out what to deploy. Is it my office, DA's office, NYPD, Department of Buildings, or is it homeless services, or is it someone with a substance use kind of cycle down background? So I think it probably is more sort of which tool in the toolkit to pull out. But if there's a particular area, you can either tell me right now, or you can shoot it to Marco, and we can coordinate with the local precinct. We've been doing that, in some neighborhoods when it's sort of brought to our attention that there's in particular a lot of kind of open air, and I think the 2-5 is one area that we've been talking about doing that in as well. So either DM me or Marco, and we can follow up with you and the local precinct about resources.
Well, right now, from committee meetings, there's a huge open air market on 125th Street and Park Avenue. And as the councilwoman just eloquently spoke about a little while ago, you get all kinds of spent needles on 116th Street. I know they're probably shooting up on 115th, but those needles are all over the floor, and that's from people using drugs, and the cops are not doing anything about it.
Yeah, so thank you, Eugene. I'll let District Attorney respond.
Yeah, no, I'm following the chat. It's true that there are some laws that we can deploy. So this is that area when that 125th and 6th and sort of Park, and I would also say Lex. I'm familiar with it. When we've had some conversations, I think there are a number of issues right there. Let me follow up, and some things we've done in some other areas we maybe can apply there. So I'll ask Marco to follow up. I see Coco just put something in as well about that area. I know that area has significant issue, and I think some of that. I've heard at least one theory that some of that has been escalated by some of the good work that we've done on 125th and Lenox. That some of that has sort of moved the traffic further east. So I think we should really think about one of the hubs that we have in Central Harlem on 125th and right off of Lenox, doing one of those further east in between 125th and 116th. It really has been quite effective. And we also are soon to announce, a program where we will be connecting more services, kind of street level services, in multiple communities. And I think this area would also be ripe for that too.
Great. Thank you. That was a good question. I'm gonna move to Beverly Pavon and then Lou Martins and Shatima Turner. And I appreciate your patience and being with us, because I know it's we're all very busy, and we appreciate you being in the space. So Beverly, your question.
Yes. If I may, Beverly, before you start, just wanted to add on a quick point to the DA's message there surrounding the last question. Attending the 125th Street bid bi-weekly with Barbara Askins and DHS, DSS, DOH, MH, and other partners within city agencies. The goal of that initiative is a pilot program so we can bridge the gap between public health and public safety, and how we can coordinate with our partners to address a concern that was brought up, such as open drug use and substance abuse, because we want to make sure that when we're interacting with people that are suffering for substance abuse, they get the necessary and correct resources to address the underlying conditions. And as the DA said, in terms of our great work there on 125th Street and Lenox, we understand that it may have displaced people from that corridor into other corridors. And I would like to offer myself as a resource. I put my information in the chat. If anybody wants to give specific locations, areas within East Harlem that you would like our office to take a closer look at, so we can see how we can coordinate with other organizations and agencies to replicate what we're doing at 125th Street. I would like to succeed my time back to the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Beverly, your question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Braggs, for coming in, the information that you gave. I did miss some parts of it, but what I did catch regarding you have a new unit for housing protection, and if you can just let me know exactly how would you help when, because I didn't even think that y'all would do harassment. I don't know who would do that, but I'd just like to know who will we contact in order for that unit for housing harassments.
Great. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
So I would say we have a hotline, but the easiest thing is reach out to Marco. His information is in the chat. He can connect you. I will say it is systemic, harassment and fraud. So, we can connect you if it's something that doesn't rise to a criminal level to, one of the legal services groups that's doing kind of the civil enforcement that we're doing, would rise to the criminal. But we can, if you reach out to Marco, he can direct you to either in our office, if it's something that rises to the criminal level, or another resource.
And this would be for all buildings, regardless of the size of the units, because I know there's a lot of protection for buildings that's 6 units and more under rent stabilization or rent control. But when it's less than that, the harassment that people are getting from smaller buildings is very rampant also. And would y'all be able to address that too?
So yeah, there's no kind of, strict, kind of cap or size, minimum. Many of the owners who have kind of small dwellings may have many of them. So we are looking to kind of, be impactful with our resources. Probably, so something that's just affecting one unit is not likely to happen, or it'd be hard to make out as a criminal case. But really egregious conduct, if it's a couple of units, that may be done. So as a general matter, it's not sort of the number of units in a building, but I would say kind of, how widespread the issue is. So it could be, spread over a number of buildings owned by the same developer, but those are all, kind of could be small buildings.
Thank you so very much.
And I've also posted the hotline information in the chat along with the press release, but also, again, you can contact me for that information.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you,
Thank
Mark.
you.
Lou Martins, your question, please.
Hey, guys, thank you. Mr. Bragg, thank you for your time coming to meet us with us today. I appreciate it. I invite you to come up and take a walk with us through the neighborhood and see what we're living with. It is, it's getting worse. I know, I heard you mention some successes, and that sounds great, but on the ground where I live in East Harlem, I'm seeing it get worse by the day. My question for you, sir, is a couple. Well, it's 2 parts. One, I have been in touch with Mr. Perez from your office, who was nice enough to come up to the 25th Precinct Council and give a presentation. Mr. Perez, I didn't forget. I do have an email for you. I just trying to get it as tight and as comprehensive as possible. So you should have that very shortly. Mr. Bragg, the email I'm going to send your assistant is about setting up a camera network in East Harlem. I think, let me just give you a quick synopsis of something that happened to my wife. We have a restaurant in East Harlem, Bistro Casa Azul. It's on Pleasant Avenue and 118th Street. One night after hours, she left. We had some people from another restaurant hanging out. She went down the block and got groped. She went down the block, came back because she was going to go get cigarettes. But long story short, some guy came up behind her, grabbed her, and it was very traumatic. And the SVU came up. They were very nice, but nothing ever happened of it because nobody on the block had lights or cameras. And the cops spent, from what I remember, 3 days or 3 detective man days trying to find video on a single street, and unsuccessfully. So the idea occurred to me that for very little money, just, I mean, pennies compared to what we spent with those detectives, we could have a network of cameras that could capture and deter and prevent and hopefully punish crime that occurs. So that's my suggestion or my question. Would your office please help us with establishing this network? I think we can do it very, very inexpensively relative to what is being spent now on trying to catch, trying to deter, and trying to grab these guys that are doing stuff. That's the one part. The other part is there was mention of open drug use. We have a nursery school directly across the street from our restaurant. And I can't tell you the number of times we've had to deal with people shooting dope, preparing to shoot dope, laying down after they shoot dope, throwing needles. We found needles in our backyard. How they got in our backyard, I have no idea. But we need help out here, Mr. Bragg. I really hope that you'll come walk the neighborhood that we are forced to live in, because, and I understand some of these things are beyond your control, but let's you and us lobby Albany to change these crazy rules that have been implemented where anything goes and nothing is punished. If I am allowed to steal, rob, or mug, or hurt people, I'm just going to keep doing it if it's in my interest. And unfortunately, it feels like we've got, you said something, you said 18% of the people shoplifting account for 50% of the arrests. Well, I'm going to just throw back the old classic 80-20 rule, where 80% of the people bring you 20% of the people bring you 80% of your problems. So I'm just going to guess that the discrepancy in that math has to lead to people not getting arrested, or people not even bothering to call. There's people just throw up their hands these days and say, what's the point of calling the cops? Or what's the point of trying to talk to this person and get them away from the nursery school? There's no support from the enforcement end of the city, the enforcement end of the police. The police, I think, are trying to do what they can. I think that there's a really beautiful spirit in trying to give everybody help at every point. But at some point, the residents and the community members and the taxpayers of East Harlem have to gain some kind of precedent over and above the violators and criminals and drug addicts that are blighting our community. This on-point safe injection site, I'd like you to take a good look, Mr. Bragg, at who is coming from where to use that service. And then where do they go when they leave? Hi. Or before they come and they need to go get dope so they can go shoot it up in a safe injection site. Where are they robbing? Whose houses are they breaking into? On my block, within 4 blocks of my restaurant, there have been a dozen break-ins or attempted break-ins in the last 2 weeks. I mean, somebody's on a spree. And
Lou,
we need help.
Lou, I hate to interrupt your question though with that follow-up. Or you just want
my question is, yes, I'm sorry. I know it's so many things. I hate to, it's hard to boil it down. I apologize. Thank you for putting me back on point. Real quick, my question, Mr. Bragg, is can you please, let's sit down and figure out a way to put some cameras up and get better evidence to get dangerous people off our streets and help the residents and community members. Will you do that for us?
Definitely. And so there was a lot there. I'm trying to respond to it all if I can. The videos, I mean, I would say video evidence is, some of the best type of evidence for us. We use it in a lot of our cases. And there are areas of the island that are, saturated in videos where we can get lots of videos. And to the extent there are areas that are not, we're certainly, prepared. And we've actually had some of these conversations with our stakeholders. So it sounds like you have Marco's information, or reach out to them. We're certainly I'm personally committed to doing that. You a couple of times you said come to the neighborhood. Your neighborhood is really my neighborhood. I don't live that far away from you, so I see much of this stuff with my own eyes frequently. I'm further to the west of you, so I'm in Central Harlem, but not far enough away that I do not see this. I'm really sorry about what happened to your wife. I think even though video is the most effective way in some instances, I think there are other ways we do make cases, and so would like to, if it sounds like you're emailing Marco about that to hear more, and we can follow up. And on the you mentioned a number of areas of sort of kind of stealing, robbing, and people not being held accountable. I just want to say on our gun prosecutors are up, with those cases are happening, and on the violence cases we are getting people detained, people who are doing that sort of harm in our community. I think some of the other things you mentioned, like the spree of robberies where there was no one apprehended. I agree that there's certainly an issue of sort of kind of like, oh, this is a lot, people not reporting, but I encourage you to continue to report. In addition to the NYPD, you can feel free to reach out to us, particularly if there's a pattern or something, we can put more resources on it, and really try to break that pattern. So a lot there. I hope I covered a fair amount of it. The last thing I'll say is I definitely agree, and I've spoken with some of you who are in this meeting, again, as your neighbor, the oversaturation of services, the sort of the methadone clinics, all that in your neighborhood, and what it brings to the neighborhood. I don't have a say in sort of where things are cited, but and located, but I certainly see it. I've seen the charts. I think I saw Sean in here. I've seen the charts that have been created of showing just the sort of oversaturation. And so I'm aware of that issue, kind of not much in sort of my province that I can do to address it. But I'm aware of it, do see it, and I'm happy to come out and walk with you if you'd like.
Thank you.
Please. Thank you, Mr. Bragg.
So I'm going to move to Shatima, and just real quick, for those here, please attend not only our community board meetings, but the 25th and 23rd and PSA 5 community precinct council meetings. They had ADA Kevin Green who attended, and I actually, when hopefully we get to closing point, DA Bragg, I'll follow up with some of his presentation, which I think we can close some of the loopholes with where your office is finding problems when NYPD is actually executing their job, because they are making the arrests. But I think those observations and sharing that information to see where the policy breakdowns are that are tying everyone's hands from making the neighborhood a safer space. And we've been having deep conversations on that. But prior to that question, I want to go to Shatima Turner. Please, your question for DA Bragg.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Shatima. I'm a Harlem resident. I'm grateful to be able to have this platform to address some concerns and issues. I want to talk about ineffective policing. I want to talk about mishandling of cases when it comes to our brown and Black boys. I want to talk about the neglect to investigate. And I'm speaking from experience. My son was murdered last year, 2021. August of 2021. The case is in court still. The young man who is seen on video discharging a gun is now out in the streets with no bail because of I would say neglect or again mishandling of the case on the ADA's part, because she took the case to the grand jury before having the ballistic test back. So the gentleman was arrested when the shooting is on camera, and he was taken to jail. He had the firearm in hand. He's seen discharging the firearm on camera, but again, he's been let off back onto the streets because of a mix-up with the ballistics. So my question is, how, as a parent, how am I supposed to walk down the street, sometimes see it and not respond or react or do anything? And I'm constantly going to court, calling the district attorney's office, asking to speak to her boss, reaching out to my city council leaders to get help, reaching out to the investigators, reaching out to the same detective that arrested the gentleman. And these cases are just being mishandled. The best thing the ADA has told me is that there's no statute of limitation on murder. So she's saying that in the event that the case gets dismissed, which is, I think is almost to that point, that they can always go back and arrest them. So don't give up hope. I text her today, and if I could share my screen, I would show you her response to what I asked her. I asked her, I said, good afternoon. And I'm not gonna be long-winded with this, but I would like to share with you all my experience with dealing with our city officials. I said, good afternoon. I was hoping to get some news from you. We are approaching 1 year since Malik was released from Rikers Island. No updates on anything. I text her at 10:31 a.m. She replied to me at 2:51 p.m. saying, we are still trying. That's it. So my question is, I don't know if TA Bragg, if I could get to you or speak to you one-on-one or someone in your office so that I could get help with this. I don't know what type of investigation they're doing. The whole incident is on camera and there's multiple witnesses. So I don't understand why nothing is being done. Again, I don't want to be long with it, but I'm grateful for the platform to be able to speak and reach out to you guys so you can know. And like I said, I'm speaking from experience.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And so I mean that so yeah, sorry to first I'm sorry to hear about the murder, and then I want to follow up with what you said. If you could just message your information to Marco, we can set up a meeting, and I can look further into that.
Thank you. Claudia.
I'm sorry, I had muted. Thank you very much. I'm grateful that I got through that without getting emotional, because it's really hard, but I appreciate you. And I'm gonna put my information in the chat. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Turner, just want to tell you, my heart goes out to you. And I don't know, there's no words, but if there's anything I can do, you know, you can reach me at Bistro Casa Azul, 118 in Pleasant. God bless you.
Yeah, Ms. Turner, thank you. I think on behalf of the board, we extend all our condolences for your loss, and please keep us looped in. We will all stand together to work in whatever way we can. So our heart breaks. Claudia.
Hello, everyone. I mean, my condolences go out to the mom. Yeah, that really threw me for a loop, her story. And I'm glad I was able to hear it, because one of my questions that I did have specifically to Bragg is living in public housing. Our PSAs are very shorthanded, and a lot of people got on here today and they spoke about their experiences, and all of their experiences are outside of their apartments. Our experiences in NYCHA is indoors. I'm gonna just use point an example, the development that I represent, because I'm also a TA president, Washington Houses. We're in between Metropolitan Hospital and Mount Sinai Hospital. We're in between two of the train stations. When you guys were pulling our PSA cops into the train stations, we didn't have anybody that was doing verticals. The verticals are not being done. A lot of the active drug activity, as far as shooting up, there's needles in the hallways, needles in the elevators, needles in basically everywhere throughout most of the NYCHA developments. Secondly, we do make calls, and unless it's an emergency, the police do not show up. When it's shorthanded, the PSA 5, which is always the fact that they're shorthanded, the 2-3 responds. But we need to have those verticals being done to remove the people in our buildings that are bringing the drugs into the developments, the campuses, NYCHA campuses. Not only that, Metropolitan has a methadone clinic, like somebody mentioned before. They go in there to receive services. The drug dealers target these centers. So it's hard for someone who wants to stop doing drugs to stop, when as soon as they're leaving their clinics and coming outside, they're being approached by the same demon they're trying to conquer. I'm not going to continue because my colleagues have said it enough, but I just had to mention about the verticals and what are we going to do about the shorthandedness in the PSAs that are strictly for the NYCHA developments, which in East Harlem, we have the most consolidated amount of NYCHA developments that need the attention from the police. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will, I don't have any oversight of the kind of PSA or PD staffing, but do talk with senior levels of the PD, so can certainly pass that on. And when I speak with the 2-5 or 2-8, when Marco does.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to give the last question to David, and then I just have a few to kind of consolidate after doing a walkthrough today in the upper part of our district. So, David.
Thank you. And Ms. Turner, I'm sorry for your loss. I turned 60 years old, but since I was a teenager, worked with youth for the last 42 years with Children's Aid, I've seen too many losses of kids in the community, and it's a hard one to bear. So much apologies. I was going to really just mention a lot of the programs that I have participated with Marco in the community around youth, and I encourage us to do more of that. But I think, in all fairness to say, DA Bragg, you got a tough job, not an easy one. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You can't enough arrest people and put enough away, and you can't let enough out or back out to be fair. So we empathize with your role. But I think education is very important. I want to, just advocate for more of those programs like the Hub that were part of East Harlem, that we worked together and really created a network through Union Settlement. And again, I work with Children's Aid Society. So I just encourage to get more programs out there that join kids and law enforcement. Your office in previous years has been open to us bringing kids from Children's Aid. We've done a lot of work around equity and trying to teach kids actually the different things that they can learn about those kinds of things. We do it through art. We do it through 6-minute memoirs. Last year, we had the dating violence there, talk to our middle school kids. So again, I really want to encourage to continue to do those things and really support those things. But yeah, damned if you do and damned if you don't. Again, this is just some of the work we've also done with kids behind us. In each of those squares, kids talk about a 6-word memoir of what justice or injustice means to them. And again, the loss around killings in our community. But thank you. Thank you for your work.
So thank you. And the youth, I mentioned the gun grants we did this summer. And we see everything in sort of enforcement lens, right? That's the core of what we do, enforcing the law in court. But we also know that, kind of for sustainable progress over time, we need to be doing some of the things you mentioned as well. So we're attempting to do both.
And I'll just say, in all disclosure, I was one of those youthful offenders at 17 and got that second opportunity. And I've helped other young people stay away as well. And that's what I've devoted my life to. Thank you, much appreciated. And we know there's a lot of work to do in our community, but sometimes it takes the community and all of us to stand up as well. So thank you.
And just want to also take the time to thank you, David, for tabling at our Art of Healing, which was such an amazing event this summer. The DA was in attendance, really just creating a creative, impactful space for youth to address gun violence trauma through artistic expression. I want to thank all community members that were in attendance and happy to continue doing great work in East Harlem with you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And yes, we have the, if you saw in the chat, I'll just call it the Saturday Lights program as well coming up. Dia Bragg, I appreciate you being here in this space, and also to having ADA Kevin Green come, who I believe lives in the neighborhood. He brought up a couple items, and when it comes to the limitations of the time limit, when it comes to discovery and conveying that information to the public defender or the attorneys defending the accused in question, and meeting that timeline, and also the difficulties being faced by NYPD, especially as they've had to hire new staff because they previously were able to meet those timelines, at least in our precincts, but now they're strapped, and in some cases had to hire 2-3 additional people. And he mentioned that also too, when building up the case for a felony and sometimes dropping down to the misdemeanor is what was referred to as the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. Would you be supportive, because if I understand correctly from what's been relayed by Marco and others, is that you've gotten over the hump of attrition from the beginning of your term. Would you be supportive of a revision of that law to allow people to actually the capacity and time to build their case? Because this seems to be coming out in the public.
Look, so the discovery is significant. The attrition is system-wide, and there's some DA's offices that have lost like 25%. I was hearing from one of my colleagues of their office, a smaller office, so not as many people, but obviously 25% is a big number. Before I became DA, so in 2021, 1,800 cases were dismissed. I don't know, maybe Red Screen provided you with that stat as well, on kind of timing out because discovery wasn't ready. So I think we do need to be looking at, fixes to this. A fix, and the mayor had us at Gracie Mansion about a month ago, a lot of the stakeholders. One fix is an information technology fix, which requires funding. Basically, the law was changed and the DA's offices didn't get funding for that, nor the defenders. But one thing we talked about that was kind of engaging the private sector. Some of the IT tools that we're using, compared to right before this, I joined, had a matter with a private firm right before I came DA. The IT tools that they're using, discovery and complex civil litigation, something that's happening every day of the week, at some of the most sophisticated firms in the world here. So yeah, we need more investment in our IT tools. We need to think about that the discovery law and how it can work more efficiently. We need more coordination. The DAs have been talking together. We get some economies of scale by joining together if we're using the same IT program. Also hoping to get the NYPD on board with that. So we're looking at all that. This is the number one issue. It doesn't get as much attention as some of the other issues. But like I said, think about that, 1,800 misdemeanor cases. Some of those cases were maybe ones that were, weren't top priorities. And so maybe that's why they timed out. Again, it predates me. But others, I can tell you, because I looked at them, are very serious. And I was making this case last year before the legislature, about a case involving, a sex crime that wasn't able to go forward because the discovery wasn't able to be pulled together in time. In fact, in that case, it was pulled together, but then something was found belatedly, which was not something that helped the defense. But even though it wasn't going to help the defense, because the deadline was missed, it actually helped the prosecution case even more. The case was nonetheless still dismissed. So we're making that case in the legislature. We got some tweaks that help it, but we need to revisit it, and we definitely need funding. And we've been saying that to the City Hall and to the state, and we'd be happy to have anyone join us in that. conversation.
That is very helpful, and we'll reach out to Marco to get some of those data points and some of the dialogue. That'd be helpful. I know I just got a message from Kyoko who's having phone problems. She did have her hand raised. I just going to follow up with two that are interconnected, as I just did a tour of the On Point, which we were there over a year ago, and I've done a reconnaissance there just for the first 6 months of this year. Took 2 weeks, not consecutive, 2 weeks worth of work time off to observe. Some of the residents in that area have complained about the dealing that's now happening in their buildings, and they're not all using the OPC, but they are actually going in, getting into the buildings, intimidating people. And a lot of them have been bringing up TAP, which is the trespass affidavit program, and wondering if that's something you would be supportive of. Again, I haven't weighed in one way or another, but they're not here in this meeting. I've checked the roll, but whether you would be supportive of enforcement if that program were to be brought back, because these are elderly folks who have dealers who are young. Sometimes they have weapons on them, and they try to get the private owners try to push them out and get them out with private security, but they come right back in. So question is, would you support that? Because that would play a part with their concerns of dealing versus those that are suffering from addiction. We want to heal people, but the dealers are the ones who are taking advantage, whether they're low-hanging fruit of a dealer or if they're the top of the chain and trying to take them down as well. So I guess, the two work together, and how you would enforce that.
Yes, I want to think about that. I haven't thought about TAP in a bit. I would say that the people who are armed, like we've done more gun possession cases this year than last, and we're going to continue doing those and prioritizing them. So the people who are doing other things other than trespassing, it's actually sort of easy to me, right? It's like if you got a legal gun, I mean, we've been I think more serious about, I don't want to say more serious, but we've done more of those than last year, and it continues to be a top priority. Or if someone's doing violence, like that's easy in and of itself. I think, as we all know, some of the trespass issues, which is why part of it was struck down as unconstitutional, was for folks who weren't doing anything other than going to see a friend or something like that. So we're happy to talk more about folks, and I think a lot of times we can tailor a specific response to a specific situation. So if there are folks in there with guns and doing harm, like let us know, and we will coordinate with the PD. And one thing that it's hard to do it completely system-wide, but when we focus our resources, we're able to sort of, I think, we've been able to kind of really address some issues this year. And so let us know, and we'll both focus them, and then we can also have a broader policy conversation about TAP.
Okay, that I think that would be helpful, especially when it comes to dealing in a lot of these lobbies, and especially right around in that general area of 125. And how you would enforce also to drug arrests. But Kyoka, I appreciate you stayed well beyond what you committed to. And I that is very, very generous. And I hope
No, it's okay. It's okay. Because you actually took part of my question. So
yeah, I was getting ready to ask you to have you ask your question. I was just telling him thank you for his time, and I was going to let you close this out with your question.
So my question is really because you actually asked my question, but so I'll say to Marco really quickly, you continuously say that what is her name? Ms. Askin's program is a pilot program. We started that in the 25th precinct. Just want you to know that again, because I've said it to you 5 times. That was a joke. However, I guess the question goes back to considering that you are attending that meeting, and it will be similar to the one that we will put back together again, since we've been doing it since 2017. Would you be willing, your office be willing to attend the meeting on the east side? Because what I want to say, as Mr. Ratty put in the chat, East Harlem and West Harlem are 2 different cultures, and we might have some of the same issues, but the culture is different. And so you have to kind of be familiar with some of the issues that we're dealing with that is a little bit separate from what West Harlem is dealing with. I'm not trying to separate us. I'm not trying to, create some false diversity, but the culture is different. And so some of the things that we experience are a little bit different. And so I just kind of want to make sure that you guys commit to attending a meeting similar to the one that Ms. Askin hosts that we started.
Yoko, I'm hearing you loud and clear. we will be there.
Thank
tell
you,
us
DA
when.
Black. I knew you would. I just had to make sure people understood that you would.
We will be there. Let us know. We'll be there.
Okay, wonderful.
Can I just ask, I'm sorry, can I just ask, when is that meeting, Ms. Jackson?
So we actually stopped our meetings only because of COVID. We will be reigniting it really soon. Ms. Askin started a little bit before us.
Okay.
But it was called the 25th Precinct Crime Reduction Meeting. And so we had all of the agencies come together, sit and have a conversation, which is how I really totally connected with the DA's office, and my program ran through the DA's office. So that I just want to make sure that that's understood, that we will be reignited it soon, and we'll be inviting people to come out to that. But we also do hold council meetings as well, which is the third Wednesday. And so a lot of the discussions that we're having here, we've had in those meetings as well. We just recently had the ADA come and answer a lot of the questions that were in this forum.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Could you just loop me in to those meetings?
Yep.
Thank you.
We will. Thank you. Keoka and I speak on a regular basis. Thank you, DA Bragg. I don't see any more hands. You've been very generous with your time. Let's have a follow-up meeting because I think we've opened up some definite ideas going forward. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a good evening.
You as well. Thank you all, and look forward to following up.
Okay.
Thank you all. Take it easy.
Great. Thank you very much, Marco. With that, we'll go back to our business session. Thank you. We'll just pick up, if you don't mind, John Green, the housing.
Thank you, Xavier. Good evening, everybody. John Green, Chairman of the Housing Committee. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. The minutes are for entertainment purposes only. Let me stop. It's for informational purposes only. We had an interesting meeting this month. NYCHA came and talked with the committee, and they discussed the proposed trust. And I want to thank the committee members because they asked a lot of great questions of NYCHA, which some of them they couldn't answer. And I also want to thank members of the public who did the same. That was really the only thing that we had on our agenda this month. And thank you very much, Xavier.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. I don't see any questions. We'll move on. We've already handled license and permits. So Jessica Elliott, Environment, Open Space and Parks.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. We had a really light agenda this month. The things we had been planning on got pushed to this month, so we look forward to seeing you at our upcoming meeting. But we had all of our city agencies there to give an update. And we also, just check my notes here, had a discussion about parks tours. So if you all remember last year, we did parks tours across the neighborhood. We separated it into 2 different days and tried to hit a lot of parks all at once. So Malik and a group of the Environment, Open Space and Parks Committee are working to organize that again this upcoming year. So if you would like to be involved at all or have any suggestions or thoughts, or if you visited last year and want, have some feedback, let us know. And we also got a head start on our committee goals for next year. So we're pretty much ready to go for that. That's it. Informational purposes for the minutes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jessica. Next, we have our youth and education. David Giordano. You're muted, David.
Hi, everybody. How are you? So basically, we almost didn't make quorum and had to cancel the meeting. And just as we were about to cancel, we had a member join. So we did have a meeting. It was a shorter meeting than usual. One of the great things that we had our normal informational updates. Nothing really special to add in relation to that. But for the sake of time, we had Sport Time USA come back to visit us and give an update. over the years, they've been coming back for maybe about 10 years now. They've been part of with the Parks and Open Space Committee and the Youth and Education. They came back to just really say and give an update after being COVID and shut down for the last couple of years. They're back in operating programs. While they do have private tennis, they also provide programs to youth in the community and to educate youth and to find that next tennis star that may be in our community as well. They do have school-based community programs. Currently, there are 18 of them. We actually have 10 of them from our schools in this district that participated in the program. So just very quickly, East Harlem Park, Isaac Newton, Central Park East, East Harlem Park, Our Lady of Angels, River East Elementary, PS 112, PS 375, Mosaic, PS 224, MS 07, PS 108, and 155. And I thought it was important to mention them because they really want to come back and also expand that. So, you know, of a school, but not only a public, one of our public DOE schools, but also some of the other private or Catholic schools in our community, or even charter that may benefit from this. They do serve our kids from our own community. One of the other things that they've done, and we've challenged them on this over the years, is that they provide scholarships for some of our kids that could get into the program. And they have 2 young people that come from our schools that receive full scholarships to go on beyond just the initial learning, but to really be part of the program and learn and be part of tournaments or participate. This has been a really collaborative effort, like I said, between not only Community Board 11, but the task force of 2 community, youth and education and open parks and space really working together as board committees. And we just look forward to really expanding. If you know some kids that are really good in tennis and may benefit from this opportunity, let us know as well. We can make the connection. We work with Daniel White and Ben, I'm forgetting Ben's last name offhand, but we've worked with them over the years and they're really open. At Children's Aid, I've run some of their programs where they brought tennis teachers to the program. And before I closed the center, we used to have a program outside and in the gym that we would do teaching kids tennis. So that was pretty much the update for the meeting. And just have a good, I see Eugene's hand up. Eugene, is that for me?
Yep.
Or Xavier,
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Eugene. Yeah, go ahead, Eugene.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing me. And yes, it is for you, David. I heard a statistic a while ago that only 20% of the young people in the neighborhood get after school programs. Is that true? And what can we do about that?
You know, I would say this. Sometimes those things are not as always easy definable. I would say really, Eugene, our loss where we really need to focus on programs at the school program is for teenagers. You know, sometimes we've supplied and think SYEP and Work, Learn, and Grow is the savior for children, but children need other activities besides just work experience. Don't get me wrong, they need that. And one of the things on the committee we've advocated in the committee is to increase the Work, Learn, and Grow, which is the SYEP that happens during the year. So Children's Aid last year had 3,000 kids doing SYEP in the summer. We have a few hundred doing Work, Learn, and Grow 12 hours a week as opposed to 25. So, you know, I always look that we make sure that we advocate for full capacity of programs, especially with DYCD. So like I'm full in my middle school, but we can take 20% more, right? A lot of programs had to close because they couldn't meet their numbers or there's staffing issues with hiring staff. There's issues around clearances, and I've talked about this in other meetings as well, that we really need to take a position and advocate for as well. You know, but does that answer it, Eugene?
Yes,
I'm not saying that we don't.
Yes and no, I applaud your work, and I know you work hard, and I know you do good for the kids, but it's only a small number. We need to have it across the whole community to capture more than 20% of the young people that need our help.
Right, but I think sometimes we forget there are other little church groups. There are other things that are not always identified that kids are participating in as well. You know, in sports programs at school. Like even me and the principal where I work at 72, he has kids that, yeah, he can hire a basketball coach and do this thing. But some of those kids are my kids in after school. So we collaborate so kids benefit from the most. But I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I say our focus should be more on older, younger adolescents, where there's a more need to keep them focused, keep them in programs that help keep them connected to adults and other kinds of things that they need. Because see, if they don't get it, they're going to get it amongst themselves. And sometimes that's where we're trying to defer. And again, with the work that we're trying to do, keep people out of certain environments in the community. But again, we need more money to do more of the arts programming, Eugene. And so, I would love to see where I'm a block away from Julio de Virgo. How do we connect so that the after-school program there can benefit what I can't afford in my DUS?
It's
I agree with you, David, but we still need to do some outreach to capture those kids that are not, in some kind of program in the neighborhood. I mean, 20%, we should be able to do better. I mean, if we could get up to 50%, that would be enormous. But I applaud your work. I applaud your work.
During the summer months, we meet with some of those partners through DYCD, through the board office that's set up through the board, and they'll bring a list and show the capacity. And then it's like, damn, we talk all these things and then we don't bring out our own capacity. And now I'll say this because I get on the soapbox for a minute. Back to sport time. We gave sport time a whole hell. Give our kids this, give our kids this, and then we do nothing to help get our kids there.
Yeah. So that David, I think that, and Eugene, you both hit the nail on the head. It's about follow through, and we talked about this at executive. So I'm really glad to have your wisdom here in the space, and ways we can set that as for a goal, David. I think that'd be a great idea, and for next steps for next year as we start reaching out and planting those seeds now so they can germinate later.
I think also the committee's focused on a lot of things pertaining to the capital needs in our DOE building. I think that's important. Yeah. Hey, Eugene, I'll say this, and I'll shut up after that, Xavier. So, keep pulling the ear, Eugene, keep pushing it through, right? So that we make sure we follow up and do these things and not, right? And so, we'll go back and I'll ask Angel or Khalid, let's reach back out to DYCD and see where the capacity. I'll tell you this, from my middle school program, man, I ain't got so many of them coming. They just want to be not home. And they're in, they average more and filled up quicker than elementary. That's interesting, right? And again, kids have lost many things over this COVID that they're looking to get back. And socialization with activities with peers is so important. I didn't mean to be this long, but you know what?
But I think we've gotten a lot of good ideas. So
I know, Xavier, but please give me a chance. One of the things I'd like to get everybody to understand that not all the kids in the neighborhood are athletes or want to be in a basketball program. There's a lot of them that want to do art. There's a lot of one that learn how to write. There's all kinds of stuff we can give them, and not having the Julia de Burgos is one of the reasons why none of that is happening.
So then I got to say this last thing. Part of the work in East Harlem, God willing that I make it through the next 8 years to possibly I retire, is that I'm looking to redevelop the East Harlem Center on 101st Street as the hub for children's aid, society, arts programming. I'm not going to have this gym that's going to have this tall ceiling like some of the other nice places I won't mention on site. And my first thought was, okay, you don't give me that, right? I'm going to make this the performing arts. We're going to do studio. We're getting a cooking kitchen to do that work where it's going to be a learning kitchen in the day. We're running our workforce development program is going to move to East Harlem on 101st. And some of the board members on here already know this, as we said in a meeting last week with the advisory of Children's Aid, we will have a more formal process coming up at a later date. But yes, that's my intention, Eugene. My mother was raised on 101st Street, went to Juilliard, went to music and art because she could play a piano, that she took lessons every day, right? Because her mother instilled that. And my mother was born in the 30s. So we talking about, we didn't have much in the 30s as immigrants in East Harlem. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I want to provide that opportunity for kids. Ball brought me into Children's Aid and I was half good, but not that good. There was all the other stuff that kept me as an adolescent when I needed to be connected to a place that wasn't home, but was home. And that's what I will continue to provide as we rebuild these homes.
I love that idea, David. I love that idea. Sorry to interrupt. I like the marriage of those two. So thank you, Eugene. I think we have a great pathway we can work on together with joint collaboration there. So great
David-
dialogue conversation. So I just want to conclude. Did that conclude your report, David?
David, one last thing. I would be more than glad to help you teach playwriting or writing in your facility.
Eugene, we should talk later on, or off cycle after this. And that's what I miss about being live, because after the meeting we go, yo, Gene, when we got
Exactly.
Later, y'all.
Exactly. Let's get
Eugene,
you.
we'll connect, my brother.
We'll make that happen. That's awesome. Okay, land use, landmarks, and planning. I think Jason was having technical difficulties. Nilsa?
Yes, hello. Let me just pull up my notes. Okay, Jason, Chair Villanueva was having technical difficulties, and he asked me to read a synopsis of what went on in the meeting. So here goes. The Land Use Committee, we had a pre-ULURP presentation from Chris Cirillo from Ascendant Neighborhood Development for an affordable senior mixed development slated to be named the Carmen Villegas Apartments. And the presentation will be available on the website as well as the minutes. The second part of the meeting we did was a follow-up on the points of agreement. The Land Use Landmarks Committee believes that it's very important that we follow up on as much as we can on what was promised. And so we did that, and we talked about the committee discussed using a rail tracker, a voting action item list in order to continue to build a follow-up process and a strategic plan on seeking the mayor's office on fulfilling the agreements made in 2017. The committee also discussed ECF and the Avalon project. As you may know, as some of the long-term committee members remember, the Avalon project on 96th Street was the one that was supposed to give us 3 high schools in addition to tall height and some affordable housing. And since then, we have been contacted and we have been told that that is no longer a possibility. They are slated to come to the community board. And so the committee had, had discussed about prepping, and we had a brief committee prep to discuss expectations on the proposed redevelopment. The committee brought up ideas about potentially finding ways to, if not rescind, but potentially make it clear that we gave our approval when a project was presented a certain way to us. And we were just exploring ways on how we can potentially revise that. And so basically, that was it. Angel, I don't know if you would like to bring up any other points. Or I believe if you weren't there, then I think Khalid might have been at the meeting. But other than that, those were the main points of the land use meeting.
Okay, wonderful. I don't see any hands raised. Thank you, Nilsa, very much. Moving along, we now have our Public Safety and Transportation Committee meeting. Jose Altamirano. Jose? Yeah, now we can hear you.
How's everyone doing on this very long night? All right, I'm going to be quick. We had 2 items I want to talk about. One of them was regarding the DOT car share program. This was a program that the city implemented as a pilot program some time ago, and then never came back to us. Then expanded the program, and now is continuing to expand as of right. We thought that this wasn't very transparent in the way of dealing with our community, that they should have came and gave us, they did, I will say that for this particular meeting, they gave us a lot of information, a lot of things that we can share now, but it's been years since they came to us. So we felt a certain kind of way with DOT in this regards. We still need to work more with them. They want to expand the program quite heavily, which we will deal with in the month that's coming up. We're looking at the sites that they're looking to do. So that was very problematic in the sense that parking is a big issue here in the community. And they will be taking significant, I think about 30 something spaces, about 36 spaces, which is significant. So this is something that we'll continue to work on, something that we weren't happy with. And while they did, like I said, they did come and give us information, this is something that they should have been done with us. We also had a street renaming present before us. For those who don't know, DJ K. Slay passed away. And there is a renaming for First Avenue and 105th Street. This was something that we will be taking up this month. So for now, it's just informational. Also, I wanted to say that 117th Street between the Pleasant and the mall, DOT has now implemented their pedestrian walkway. However, they have yet to implement the permanent standings. They just put those plastic bollards. Already, vehicles are driving over them and driving through them. We will be reaching out and speaking to them in regards to what they promised us, which would be to have permanent granite bollards there. And what this would do is prevent vehicles from going in there so that the pedestrians can use it at ease. But as of now, vehicles, when they're forced to, they just drive over the bollards, park there, and then drive out. And that's all for tonight. Any questions?
Any questions for Jose? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along to Human Services. Isaac?
Good evening, everybody. I'll also be quick. I want to share some of what went on during our meeting. I also put some links into the chat for folks because our meeting is not yet ready on the calendar. The recording is not up there, so just get you the information sooner than later. For some of our announcements, New York City sexual health clinics are coming back online and with expanded services. I'm going to put that link into the chat. That was one of them. Also, the subway safety plan. This was something that we went over pretty thoroughly, I guess, at our meeting, but it intersects with our committee as well as the public safety committee in specifically dealing with unhoused populations of people coming from the shelter system, lingering on the train, also being, disruptive on the train and stuff like that. And also how, Governor Hochul and Mayor Adams is planning to address that in a humane way, in a trauma-informed way. So they actually do have a safety plan. It is very comprehensive. It does seem like they've thought out enough. I'll put that link in the chat as well for folks to review it. So at their next opportunity, they can weigh in on that because the subway is a very, very important mode of transportation for many of us. So it's important that we did go over that at our meeting. We added a new we added Borican Neighborhood Health Center to our monthly informational updates. One of the things that, so for folks who don't know, I've been chairing this committee for about 5 or 6 months now. And some of what I wanted to do was ensure that every meeting is as informative as possible. So we have been, adding, we have East Harlem Co-ed as well, who was also added right before Borican. And we already get our COVID and monkeypox updates from DOHMH. So this was a needed expansion. If anyone has any other thoughts, you can definitely reach out to me about where we can get some informational updates from. monthly ones that would be pertinent to, the purview or the scope of our committee. We had a presentation. We had 3 presentations. We had one from the Public Health Solutions, New York City Smoke Free, Public Health Solutions, talking about vaping and young people vaping. They actually, I'm I'm going to be reaching out to Andrew, if not Marlene did already, about sharing some of the information in our newsletter, but also working across committees and with people in our community to allow them to come into their spaces to speak to people, to inform young people about vaping specifically. So this is really important because the statistics are very, very high for our young people who are vaping, and we're not even talking about like high schoolers. We're talking about like young people who are in junior high school, and that's like 6th grade to 8th grade, so this is really important that we get this information out and allow them to be able to get access to places where young people are at and possibly, participating in vaping and stuff like that. We also had a presentation from about health equity and access to care project. This project is funded by the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. It's working with, I believe, the New York School of Public Health, but specifically they're looking at discrimination in accessing healthcare. So they are conducting a study right now where they are gathering information from people who have at some point or another experienced some form of discrimination as it relates to obtaining healthcare. So if this sounds familiar to you, please, I guess you could email me and I can connect you with them. I'm going to be working with them to get them access to some of the church spaces that I have access to and other just community spaces that I work with throughout East Harlem and Harlem, period. Because this is really, really important. Healthcare and access to funding for healthcare is very important, and discrimination is very, very real. So if this has been you, please let me know, or just figure out a way to, to another thing I wanted to say, how they're doing the research important. They're holding small focus groups, and that's how they're getting the information. So it's you would essentially sign up with them, and you would participate in a small focus group with think 3, maybe 4 people the most, and the investigator who would just ask general questions, and folks would be able to share. And it seems more of a qualitative study. So it's really, your opportunity to vent, but really share what your experience is. So just wanted to circle back on that because how the study will be conducted is important, especially with, sometimes research can be uncomfortable when we talk about personal stuff. So that's how that will be happening if you want to participate in it. Thirdly, we had a presentation from Vita Family Services, who was requesting a letter of acknowledgement for transferring their existing Oasis license to operate through Promesa. They are an organization that does service 80% of people from the zip code 10029. So we were happy that, we were able to unanimously approve their letter of acknowledgement. So those are the 3 presentations we had for some old business. And this is very relevant to everything that's being said right now. I'm listening, I'm hearing a lot. It's late, so I'm not going to rant. But we did, I would encourage everybody to go back to our meeting, and if you don't already have access to the questions and the answers that DOH MH gave us back. So on September, we had a meeting with them, and we had some very pertinent questions for them that they could not answer. They did circle back with them in writing, and I read those on the record at this meeting, and it addressed a lot of what is being said. I think just in hearing their responses, for folks who are like listening to all of this and saying, yeah, I saw a little bit of that, so I agree with this. I think it's just good to listen to what they said, what you're seeing, and just get a holistic perspective on, you know, what's happening so that you can make the best informed decision when you decide to make a decision about, you know, or to take a position on any of this, because this is a lot. It's very complicated. These, you know, some of these organizations are servicing a lot of East Harlem people who are tax-paying people. So it's not so easy to just, you know, speak about people the way, you know, I hear us commonly speak about people. You know, so it's I would encourage everyone to go back if you want to be informed about the overdose prevention center that everyone is referencing, and what DOHMH said to us about it. Please go back and watch the meeting or hit me up and I will send you the questions, whatever flows for you, just so that you are informed. You can get it from Xavier, you get it from Angel, but it's just important to be informed, especially when we're talking about issues that impact other people. You know, it's a lot. All right, so I said I wasn't gonna rant. December meeting. December meeting. We are going to do an overview of our 2022 committee accomplishments. We've had some new committee members join our committee, so we want to just, you know, here's a recap of what we did do. Here's what you participated in, just so that we can just have a sense of what we've been able to do as we move forward with what we want to do in 2023. And that is the main topic of our meeting next in a few weeks. We will be going through and asking very specifically, what would you like to see this committee address specifically in 2023? There are a lot of issues that are impacting East Harlem that sits under the purview of the Human Services Committee. So we don't want to drown out any other issues with one issue or two issues. So we want to make sure that folks are weighing in here. And also, what are some steps that we can take to accomplish those goals? So that's where we at. I'm going to stop right there. That concludes my report. Everybody have a good evening.
Thank you, Isaac. And to the point, because I see Giselle has her hand up, that the Q&A response, you can include that as an addendum to your minutes so it can be publicly available. So anyone can just go on the website and download, and the staff will get to that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate your work. Giselle, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Isaac, for the report. It dawned on me when you mentioned about the vaping, because my restaurant is next to a smoke shop, and when you said that they're starting young, they are very much so starting young. And I was standing in front of the restaurant the other day, and I'm thinking to myself, and I said, when you walk into a restaurant, you're supposed to have certain signage up, right? Like, you know, don't consume alcohol while pregnant, or, you know, allergies. So I feel like these smoke shops should also have, you know, they're going to sell what they're going to sell at the end of the day. It's a business. But if they have certain signage up to inform the buyer, you know, the kid, it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, but something's going to click. They have that signage up informing them about the effects of vaping or, you know, smoking, etc., whatever it is that these smoke shops are selling, because, you know, it's really just like you know, you walk in, you come out with whatever you have to get out. They're not leaving with any knowledge or any little seed to plant and be like, hey, listen, you know, if you vape for 3 years, this is what your lungs will look like, etc. Same thing they did with the smoking industry to get people aware of the effects. So I don't know how your committee can kind of address that with the people who came to present, but I think it would be a good idea, because like you said, the information and knowledge is very important. So thank you for bringing that up.
No, thank you, Giselle. I think what you were just making me think is that we can talk to them about their marketing. You know, like, how else are you getting the word out? You know, are you working with an artist? Are you working with a designer? And if not, then maybe I can find one for them, or we can figure that one out. And I'm more than happy to walk around to stores in East Harlem and just ask, like, yeah, would you mind putting this up on your window? Or for the ones who don't care because they let everybody put stuff up, I'll put it up, you know? So I'm more than happy to do that. That sounds like, you know, I remember when growing up, it was a whole bunch of signs like that. So just when you said that, it made me just think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can drop some off at the restaurant and I can give them out as well. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Happy, thank you.
Love the collaboration. Stephanie.
Thank you. I'm thinking maybe we should also make sure that when we reach out, when we do like when OCM actually becomes fully like integrated and they start the enforcement component, maybe this is something that we should make sure that OCM, the Office of Cannabis Management, knows that there should be signage, because I know that's part of some of their enforcement, but those are conversations that they're having. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I think we should keep that in mind, and that I think Echo Dev maybe
Yeah.
would be the ones who would be speaking to OCM as well. So it's something that we should all keep in mind.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense too. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
All right. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Isaac, for that great brain dump of information. You guys did a great meeting. Thank you for sharing that with the body. Keep on keeping on, as they say. Going back to Eco Dev, because they didn't get to finish, Marissa didn't get to finish her report.
Okay, hi everyone. Quickly, so we, as we already spoke about, we had a presentation on the tree lighting, which we approved. So very happy that that passed and we're able to continue that effort within the community. We also had a presentation from Moiram Espino from UMass, and they talked about, or he talked about specifically some of the programs that UMass has for businesses within the community, and they've actually done a lot of work in the Harlem neighborhood. And they've come a number of times to present in front of our committee, so they were able to talk about some of the programs for small businesses that are available, not only loans, but grants, or loans that are somewhat forgivable, and some of the other products that they have there. So please, if you are a small business or know a small business that wants to hear more about this information, you can log on to our YouTube recording and listen. Moira also did give out a presentation. So if there's more information that you would like, we do have that available as well. And then we also we had a presentation from Uptown Grand Central. As hopefully everyone knows, East Harlem Nights is, the night market is actually back at La Marqueta, so that'll be taking place December 3rd, 10th, and 17th from 4 to 8 p.m. I believe. So please stop by. There are tons of vendors that will be there during this time, and it's Union Settlement, Uptown Grand Central, Diana's office, EDC, Ponce Bank. There are a number of sponsors on this event taking place. So I just wanted to ping that. We are also continuing conversations with Chipotle. They're set to open in December. I think honestly, I think the only thing that has been really confirmed is the give back to schools in our community, and that is through the Change donation program, but we are still talking to them about other ways that they can engage. We did give them a list of ideas, and just mentioning that we are still in talks with them about some of the ideas that were presented. So even though it's only the give back to the school that's taking place right now, again, there were a number of initiatives, not only from our committee, but from others as well within the community that gave recommendations for ways that they can be a little bit more engaged. And so we will still continue conversations with them, because frankly, I don't think that what they're currently doing right now is enough for the bandwidth of Chipotle. So I just wanted to bring that, as I know that that's still a topic of conversation. Also wanted to note that I have been in contact with Link NYC, who is really trying to connect more with businesses within our community so that marketing can take place. I've also mentioned this with Giselle, and so we have some information that we will be sharing out about ways that businesses and nonprofits can submit information for different programs that they're doing so that they can be advertised on the Link NYC kiosk that we have within our communities. And that is it. Any questions?
Yeah, it looks like we have two, Beverly, or three now. Beverly, your question?
Yes, this is also to piggyback off Isaac's comments and report from his committee. I wanted to know whether or not do smoke shops have to come to the community board or to your committee for any type of licensing? Because it was a real good suggestion that signage be put up regarding vaping in these type of establishments. And I just want to know if it's any type of community that they have to come to the community board when they open up businesses like that in our community.
Beverly, they don't, but what might be helpful is making a requirement that these signs go up. So I'm not sure what the requirement is for any of the well, actually no, that's not true. Giselle just spoke about that we have to have certain signs within restaurants, right? And then you usually see certain signs within restaurants. But in terms of businesses coming before my committee or saying that there's anything that's needed, there's currently nothing in place right now. So that might be a different avenue to go to say, look, maybe this is something that we can rally around to make that a requirement of businesses. And I want to thank Isaac too, just for bringing that to the forefront, and obviously Giselle for mentioning it as well. But Beverly, at this time, there's not.
All right, thank you.
Eugene, your question.
Yeah, I just want to make a point of information. The Economic Development Corporation of New York City runs the Julia de Burgos. They have yet to provide any kind of economic development program for that facility. And when you know that theater produces for every dollar you spend in the theater, people spend $12 in the local economy. This should be an economic development project at the Julia de Burgos, in addition to the Museo del Barrio, which is run by the Department of Cultural Affairs. We got to get these two people in here to talk about taking care of some business in these theaters.
Okay,
so I think Eugene, sorry, just to answer, because I know that we also just briefly spoke about that at our meeting, and I think our next steps were you were going to send an email so that we can get the players together and we could kind of start speaking about this.
Okay. You want me to send an email regarding what?
So what you just stated, right? Are you looking to get stakeholders at the table to start working on some projects? So we're here for it. That's let's get others involved, and I think that was the next steps.
Okay, right. I would really like to make a presentation to the committee on what I see is an opportunity which we're missing to develop an uptown theater district in East Harlem.
Okay.
We would love that, and can I also add on there as well that I think the presentation would be good, but I think you have the backing of a lot of people on the committee, so we're in agreement with you. I think if you want to move it along, and the next steps would be to kind of set up a meeting and say, like, how would you envision this actually moving along? So we're happy. I will put you on the agenda for next month, but also saying that you have the support, I believe, of a lot of people as well, which is good, right? And then you can kind of build from there. So
put the letter together, Dean.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard anybody have an objection to creating a theater district in the neighborhood. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about letting people know what is available to us, what we're not using, and we're not talking about a lot of money. I mean, we don't.
Well, let's go.
Okay, so I think from what I've heard, wait, guys, I know it's getting late. We had a very productive meeting with the DA here. From what I heard left, the ball was in Eugene's court to work on an email to prepare for the committee. So let's get that done and dusted and move things along. Thank you, Eugene. I feel your passion very much. Angela, your question.
So thank you for the presentation, Ms. Mack. Since you mentioned Chipotle, I want to know what happened, because in licenses and permits, we did not approve their liquor license because that was the only action that we could actually evoke upon them. So where does that stand? Because my understanding was that they could usurp that and still go get one.
That I'm not aware of, and that lies within licensing and permits. And I don't know, I think them may be on here. And so in terms of their license for their liquor and that portion of that, hadn't really been on that side of it. My side was more of how are they going to interact with the community? So I will open that question to
So I just wanted to know if, even though we didn't approve it, that they still got it anyway. Because my understanding was that what we said didn't necessarily, wasn't the be all end all in regards to somebody receiving a liquor license.
So
license
hold
and
on.
permits.
Yeah, that's licenses and permits. We need to go look back at the record. They have been engaging. So we need to just double check on that. And it doesn't look like Adem is on at the moment. So he
All
would be
right.
to answer that. So
Well,
yeah.
it hasn't come up in it because I do sit on licenses and permits. So I know it hasn't come up again. But since she mentioned that they were in talks, I just wanted to know if they had found out, like, do they know do they have it? Or did that action actually thwart that particular effort, which was the only thing we could do in support of the local businesses on that, in that area?
So that we will follow up in the morning with that, but they have been engaging in good faith with that. Whether or not they have their license, we need to double check the records. They pushed back their opening. So that was something I was on the call with Marissa as well as Giselle.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Marissa.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. Well done. Moving on, we did not have this month. We will be back in action in December. There was not a statement of district needs and budget committee either. So please join us in December. I believe it's the 15th, that Thursday. With that, we should be on to any new business. Where did it go? Okay. Angela, do you have new business or is that an old hand? Beverly,
Old hand.
Okay. Beverly, you had a question or?
Yes, I have something for new business. I attended Senator Cordell Clear's meeting, a little breakfast called the Intersectionality of Housing and Race. There's an exhibition, exhibit at Columbia University, the Diana Center, on a look at the history of segregation and its impact on Black communities then and now.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for the committees to attend, or we can have a tour, because they have a little tour of the systemic racism and policies that's been put into the housing committee since the 1930s. A lot of information regarding redlining and how it was implemented, and how it's been so detrimental to us here even now. Senator Clear came upon this exhibit by accident. She was at Columbia University for something else, and she seen the exhibit. And I'm so glad that she had this notion to present this to the people. A lot of great information, a lot of, as the lady said, receipts as to how the housing redlining was implemented, and specifically against people of color, Black, and at a time also the Irish and the Italians.
This, not to interrupt, this sounds more like an announcement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure, is there no new business or old business? and then we'll pick right up, so we can just move the agenda along, and then you can carry on, because we
okay.
got that invitation. Take it as no new business or old business. We move on. We typically do roll call and then announcements. Why don't you finish up your announcement? We'll do the roll call and then the last announcements. Sound good?
Okay. Yeah, sound good.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
Oh, me?
Yeah, was that it?
Oh, okay.
Or- yeah, you
No,
can
no,
finish up.
no. Yes, I do have some flyer about it. We can call if, you can call to do a tour. I believe that Community Board 11 would get a lot of information from this tour and presentation, especially for housing, the Housing Committee and the Land Use Committee, but it affects everything. It's just so interactive with everything that our community has been going through with the drug problems and no jobs and stuff like that. So I would like to see if we can set up a tour of this exhibit for the community, and have some speakers from the panel come and speak to the board. I'm hoping even Senator Cordell can give us even more information about this exhibit and the information that came from it, and how it can be useful for us to change the policies that's been plaguing our community for home ownership and affordable housing.
Thank you so much for attending. She had an event this morning, and regrettably I couldn't make it because I had school drop off, but thank you. Please share it with the office and they'll disseminate all the information, and maybe we'll make a little field trip out of it. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And appreciate you sharing that information. This is again about sewing us together in a tighter fashion. So thank you.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thanks, Bev. With that, we'll have a roll call and then final announcements.
Hello, everyone. Jose Altamirano. Leroy.
Still here.
Okay, very good. Leroy Andino.
Yes, present.
Stephanie Arroyo.
Present.
April Autry.
Present.
Adim Briha. Jihad Chaudhry. Diane Collier is excused. Devon Crunchow.
Present.
Kenneth Crouch.
Present. Present.
Beautiful. Carlos Diaz.
Present.
Rosa Diaz.
Present.
Angela Donadell.
Present.
Jessica Elliott.
Present.
Judith Febraro.
Here.
Rafa Flores. Ostendi Garcia. Brandon Gillespie. David Giordano.
I'm here.
Beautiful. John Green.
Out.
Wanda Hopkins. Alonzo Johnson. Jewel Jones.
Present.
Marissa Mack.
Present.
Giselle Malave.
Present.
Malik McCullough.
Present. Here.
Beautiful. Jennifer Mayer.
Present.
Jessica Morris. Nilsa Orama.
Present.
Beverly Pabon.
Present.
Arturo Perez is excused. Claudia Perez.
Present.
Roberta Perez. Javasia Robinson Teg. Natasha Rodriguez is excused. Eugene Rodriguez.
Here.
Dawn Sanders. Xavier Santiago.
Present.
Isaac Scott.
Present. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Isaac. Russell Schuler. Vincent Torres. Anne-Marie Vasquez. Jason Villanueva. Hilda Vives Vasquez.
Here, and good night.
Good night, Hilda. Michelle Wilshire Clement, me. Good, I'm here. Jordan Wright. And good night, everyone. Jason Wu.
Here, good night.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Wait, I have one announcement, please.
Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead. And then I see Tamika as well, but go ahead, Claudia.
Okay, I just wanted to let everybody know that on Monday, December 5th, from 6 to 8 p.m., DYCD is having a public hearing from the Neighborhood Advisory Board, which I am on. So I wanted to share that information with everybody. It will be at 404 East 105th Street. It's the SCAN building. And I will be forwarding you guys the flyer so that you can put it out for everybody to come out. It's gonna be discussing the funding, and the surveys are still open to bring funding into the community. So all that information will be given out on that day, as well as it's on the flyer.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Claudia. Tamika, you had a quick announcement.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. I'm just announcing that I have a meeting coming up on December 4th. It's a housing committee meeting that I'm going to be having. And we're talking about the trust, the preservation trust, and real estate tax abatement. So if anybody wants that information, I'll drop my information in the chat. We meet at 1730 Madison Avenue from 12 to 1 o'clock every other Sunday.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Giselle?
I just wanted to extend my thank yous to everyone for the Thanksgiving event who helped disseminate the flyers, spread the word, came in, visited, volunteered. Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you guys. So that's it for me. Good night.
Oh, thank you very much, Giselle. And again, I'm glad to see everyone banding together and getting things done. CB11's next full board meeting is scheduled for December 20th. It will be virtual. To that end, any of you who would like to get together for a quick Christmas cocktail or just to say hi before we depart for the holidays, please reach out. Anyone who's game, no pressure whatsoever. We typically would have a Christmas get together, and we're not able to do that this year. And so, yeah, and I think there was one other announcement there. Go back, please. Or not. There we go. Yeah. And also too, goes without saying, the board office will be closed December 26th for Christmas Day observed and January 2nd, New Year's Day observed. With that, that concludes our meeting. I want to tell you thank you very much. It was long, but it's very rare that we get an elected official who's dealing with so much, such as DA Bragg, to be in our space. And I know it added on a good chunk of time. Though he committed for only half an hour, he stayed a little over an hour. So thank you for your patience with one another and our members of the public. So have a good night and thank you for your service.
Good night, everyone. Be safe.